Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. His brother Raya want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashema Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body living sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars, they're out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, right? Doing everything they could do to put themselves in a position to shake the hand and wake up the hopeful elect. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf in this thing, right? That actually sincerely reverence their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts of our foremothers on fire for the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf that are not married as of yet, but building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, by being submissive, doing everything they could do to magnify the Most High in the ministry. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty children in this thing, abstaining from all lust, concupiscence, and peer pressure, standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. And last but not least, another strong shalom to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, reading, praying, fasting, making their body living sacrifice. Right, this is going to be an in-depth breakdown on the whole book of Galatians. Right, the entire book, right, each and every chapter through the spirit and power of Yahawashi Yahushua, we're going to dive into and rightly divide the word of truth, right, from everything that people may look at as a schism, from everything that people may not deem as correct and or the truth, right, what people may be confused about, history, timelines, understanding, right, all of this is prevalent to dive into so that you can make full proof of the ministry of the Most High. You don't want to be a brother or a sister that's in this truth, right? You take everything that everybody says and or get easily swayed back and forth through doctrines, philosophies, confusion, right? And everything that's against sound understanding and being rooted in this truth, right? Let me share my screen, right? Most are willing, we could dive into every epistle before this place goes down in depth, right? We may not do it all in one video, but nevertheless, we don't know what the spirit of the Most High may suffer us to do, right? Let's go to the mighty book, right, of 2 Timothy, right, chapter 2 and verse 15, right, and it reads, study to shew thyself approved. So who are you studying for? Are you studying for views, notoriety, fame, right? What are you studying for? You should be studying to teach your family. You should be studying not to be overtaken by wolves. You should be studying to understand the truth. You should be studying not just the book of Galatians, Revelation, right, Ezekiel, Daniel, right, and Exodus, but the entire Bible, that you may gain the understanding of history, timelines, dates, and Yahawashi, which is the truth. Study to shew thyself approved unto God. That's who you're studying to show yourself approved unto. The Most High is going to try you, right, through the spirit, man. Right? You're going to be through that fire. And if you don't have those precepts in mind, if you don't know these accounts, right, if spirits may suffer you that the Most High may have let loose, like he did on Job through Satan, and you don't know how to fight it by the sword and the armor, well, how are you going to be able to stand in an evil day? So we're studying not only to teach our families and the nation, but also that we may save ourselves through Yahawashi. A workman. What does the Lord liken men in his truth unto? A workman. Workmen aren't lazy. Workmen get up. Workmen work hard. Workmen make full proof of the things that they're building. That needeth not to be ashamed. So you don't want to have a work or a building or anything you're doing, and in the day of the Most High, when he flashed that light upon it and all the works of man are manifest, that you're ashamed of the work that you put in. You're ashamed of not digging deeper inside of the book of Ezekiel. You're ashamed of not digging deeper inside of the book of Revelation. You're ashamed of not understanding it as it is written. But you've been taught by other people that don't know the scriptures themselves, and or right by Satan who's whispering in your ear, breaking things down completely wrong. You're a workman, and a workman needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, man. That's Yahawashi, Hamashiach, the King. So you have to rightly divide the truth from the fables, the truth from wickedness, the truth from lies. And only a man of God and woman of God are going to have that zeal, the mentality, right, and righteousness to be able to push through Yahawashi's mercy to understand these things. Let us dive into it through the Spirit. Let's go to the mighty book, right, of Galatians. It's the book of Galatians, right, chapter 1 and verse number 1. Right, before I get into it, I want to get a quick history real fast. So Galatia, right, is a province, right, in modern day Turkey, right, in Anatolia, right? So you have Antioch, which is also Turkey, Anatolia, you have Galatian, you have these different names. When you go inside of the New Testament, you have to understand that it's talking about, right, the New Testament, but it's talking about Turkey. It's talking about Galatia. It's talking about these different places. That says Galatia was an ancient area in the highlands of central Anatolia, right? Also known as Asia Minor region, right? Now I want to dive into this. Now, a lot of people, or Christians rather, say the book of Galatians were to the men that were Celtic people, right? The Indo-European people, right? Which are your Germanic tribes, which were broken up by the barbarian invasion, which went in, right, and ransacked Rome. And also Rome, when it was coming into power, you had the conquest of Rome during the Roman Empire. Where Rome was coming into power, taking down all of these other nations. Now I want to get this real fast. Celts, right, which is short, right, when you're going into it, right, for Galatians and these different people. But this not talking about the so-called white man. So when you read the New Testament, you have to understand the history and how people will try to throw a blinder over your eyes, right, to try to manipulate a situation that you have to know the history on. That's how you chop them down, through the precepts and history, man, right? A workman doesn't just have a hammer. He doesn't just have, right, some measuring tape with no nails. This man is fully equipped. You may see a heavy duty man with that garter belt wrapped around. He has all type of tools and pliers and wrenches. This man is fully equipped, no matter if he's fixing a drain, a leak, right? He's patching up a wall, because this man is rightly dividing what needs to be done. Right? It says we're a collection of right, Indo-European peoples in Europe and Anatolia, identified by their use of the Celtic language, right? Now I'm going to dive down a little bit. It says the Celtics were often in conflict with the Romans, right? Because you had the conquest of Gaul, right? It says as such as the Roman Gallic Wars. So that was very important during that time where Rome was coming into power. Now your Celtics, or Galatia rather, going into it, right, is by France and or Germany, right, on a selected region when you're diving into it. It says, and the Celtiberian Wars and the conquest of Gaul. I just want to read this real fast. The Gallic Wars were waged between 58 and 50 BC by the Roman general Julius Caesar against the people of Gaul. Gallic, Germanic, and Britannic tribes fought to defend their homeland against an aggressive Roman campaign. These are your Roman conquests and your Roman wars. It says conquest of Gaul and the conquest of Britain. By the 1st century AD, most Celtic territories have become part of the Roman Empire. So that's when you go inside of the New Testament, right? All of this was under the Roman Empire because most of all of these churches were in Turkey, right? Anatolia, right? Which in Antioch, and these different regions selecting around that Turkey as it is called today. That's how Roman gave the providence and the power during that time. It says due to Roman, in a sense, the migration of Germanic tribes, Celtic culture mostly became restricted to Ireland, Western Northern Britain, and Britannia. Right? Now I want to dive into this too on a map. So when you're looking at Spain, you're looking at Italy, you're looking at Europe, you have Germany, Luxembourg, Belgium, the Netherlands, but France, your modern day France, is Gaul. That's what Gaul is. So even when you go to the book of Revelation, I'm going to get this quick account real fast through the Spirit. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 17, right? I mean, this whole thing is fire. But I'm going to start at verse number 10. I'm going to start at 9. And here is the mind which have wisdom. Now, the book of Revelation was around 90 to 95 AD, right? You have John on the island of Patmos. As he's writing this, who's ruling? The Roman Empire. It says having 7 heads, right? Salakia, are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So the woman is the great whore, which is America. Now, upon America, you understand, it says 7 heads are the 7 mountains, meaning mighty nations, on which the woman sitteth. So the woman is Babylon the Great, which has preeminence, power, and the strong is ruling these other nations and or having preeminence over them. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, right? So you have French, Spain, Germany, Russia, Greeks, Romans, and Great Britain. Now, I'm going to get this real fast. It says Gaul was conquered, although it would not become a Roman province until 27 BC. Right? Someone said that's the beginning, right, of the Roman Empire. And Renaissance would continue until late as 70 AD. There was no clear date for the war, but imminent Roman civil war led to the withdrawal of Caesar's troops in 50 BC. Let me get this real fast. So you have France, right? French Republic, right? So during this time, like I said, when you're going into the heads, Rome took down, which had preeminence and ruled during these wars, as Rome stretched forth to continue to conquer. You also had what is called the Gallic Wars, right? Going into the same thing as what we just read, but I'm going to read it again differently. And it's telling you that it's present day France. It says the Gallic Wars were waged between, right, 58 and 50 BC by the Roman general Julius Caesar against the people of Gaul. Right now, Gaul got its name from thrice, right, the Providence, right, present day France, Belgium, Germany, and Switzerland, right, when you're going into that region, right, Germanic, right, that's why they call it Germanic, Garlic, or these different terms. It says tribes fought to defend their homeland against an aggressive Roman campaign, right? So when you're going into this, you really got to know the history, right? From Thrace all the way up top at the Providence to Macedonia, right? Greece to Italy, right? Rome, right? To Antioch, right? Throughout the Aegean Sea. This is Paul's journeys, right? Out of the 4 missionary journeys that he had. And he chiefly was where? It was in Turkey. You have Cappadocia, Cilicia, Tarshish, right where he's from, Debris, right? And then you have Galatia, Pamphylia, Pontus, right? When you're going into the New Testament, these names are very important. And you have to know biblically who they are. Everything isn't going to stay the same in the Bible like Egypt does, right? Or whatever the case may be. Things change. And you have to be able to look at a map to identify who these people are today, right? Who got chased out of the land, the history, and or what these names are on a map today, right? Let's go to the mighty book, right? Of Galatians chapter 1, and I'm going to start at verse number 1, right? This was around 48 to 49, right? AD when you're going into it, right? And it reads, Paul, an apostle, not of men, neither by man, but by Yahawashi and God the Father, who raised them from the dead. So the Lord is telling you plain upon tables, Paul didn't make himself an apostle. Paul didn't think it meet to do the will of his own mind. Paul was hand selected and chosen by Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Whether you like it or not, Paul is on fire, man. Paul was hand selected. Who could stay the hand of the Most High? He was an apostle, not of men. Because men will make you an apostle, man. You'll grab your son up, right, and make him come to camp. You'll make him go to that feast day, right? You'll make him go to that unity camp. You'll pick a brother up and force him to do the work of the Most High. You'll push brothers and encourage brothers, right? And certain brothers are hop in the spirit, maybe or maybe not. But it's a difference when the Most High put that spirit on man. When the Most High put that spirit on man, you can't stop teaching. You can't stop reading. You can't stop thinking about the precepts. You always condemned in your mind. When you go off, you sin. It's a different spirit, right? It says, but by Yahawashi and God the Father who raised him from the dead. Meaning Yahawashi is responsible of all the works of Paul on the right-hand side. It says, and all the brethren which are with me, right, unto the churches of Galatia. And Paul was with many men. You had Silas, Barnabas, Marcus, Archelaus, right, Demeas before he fell away. You had a lot of righteous men that labored with Paul, that were on missionaries, that traveled, that did the work of the Most High. It says, grace be to you and peace from God the Father and from our Lord Yahawashi. So he's sending greetings to this church. Now, when you're going into it, just because an epistle is written to a physical church doesn't mean that it's not applicable, nor does it apply to anybody else. Because if that were the case, none of the scriptures would apply to us if you want to look at it that way. We weren't in Rome at that physical time in this lot, right? You're not at one of the 7 churches physically. You're not Sardis. You weren't physically, right, in Pergamos. You weren't physically during these places, right? Even in Egypt. Now, if you want to break it down that way, you have to force in regeneration. You have to force in this to make that doctrine complete, but you're going to add on top of what a lot of men say. These epistles are hand selected by Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, right? As Paul, that is over top of these churches, admonishing, rebuking, exhortating, helping, pushing these men to repent, get their houses in order, to stop with all the division, the madness, right? Not to get manipulated, overthrown, right? The charge of these epistles during this time was what's going on in the churches, man. Right? That's why everybody has a different ministry with the same spirit. Right? You had Jeremiah sent out, man. Right? Around the men of Anak and Benjamin. You had Ezekiel during the rivers of Cherub, right? During the Babylonian Empire. You had Paul, which went to these diverse places in Turkey. Everybody through the spirit has a dispensation of where the Most High wants them to go, where he wants them to teach, in the ministry, thought process, prophecy, and visions that the Most High gave them. And all that's prevalent for us today. Right, let me get a quick precept. Right, let's go to the mighty book of 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter. Don't ever let nobody tell you that these are just, right, just for a physical church. If anybody's ever said that. Right, this is the book of 1 Corinthians 10 and 11. Now all these things happen unto them for examples that are written for our admonition. Who is it for? Our admonition. Did the Most High have to put all of these examples what happened in the wilderness, man? It already happened. What are they documented for? Those men have passed away. They're gone. It's for the generation to follow. These accounts are for the generations to follow. Not just the things that Paul said or the commandments that were given, but for those commandments to still carry on and the understanding through Yahawashi to this very day. Upon whom the ends of the world are come. Right? Diving back to it. Right? Verse 4. Who gave himself for our sins that he might deliver us from, right, this present evil world according to the will of Yahweh our Father. To whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Yahawashi into another gospel. So Paul said, I'm confounded that you have it in your spirit, in your thought process, in your mind to be removed, meaning drawn away from Yahawashi who have called you, right, to a whole nother gospel. A gospel is a teaching, a tiding, right, an understanding, right? How are you so soon removed? Now the Galatians were on a low level. They were easily bewitched. You had a lot of men that are trying to put them, hold them, constrain them into bondage under the circumcision and the bodily elements of the law. Now these men are like your children, right, on a lower level, if you have ears to hear. Now your children are easily swayed, man. Children are groomed. Children get kidnapped easy. Children are like going to and fro. Like it says in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 14 all the way down. So Paul's confounded and he's marveling, right, that you are so soon removed. Now, why is he saying that they're so soon removed unto another gospel? Who are these men trying to remove this church and cast a veil over their eyes? Let's go to Galatians. Now, understanding Galatians, a lot of Galatians, the understanding is within Galatians, like Song of Solomon, like Psalms, like Revelation, like the law, a lot of prevalent books that been going to today. To understand the context, you have to read within that book, man. Let's go to Galatians chapter 5 verse 10. It says, I have confidence in you through the Lord that you will be none otherwise minded, meaning you can't be overthrown and manipulated. But he that troubleth you shall bear his judgment, whomsoever he be. Who's troubling the church? Right? You had the Pharisees, doctors of the law, and men of high preeminence of the Jews, right, that were over top, pressing men, constraining them, and making them feel like they ought to do things that they don't need to. Right? And another gospel could be anything in the spirit, man. How are you so removed to another teaching that just came in 2024, man, that no elder has heard, no prophet has heard, but you're the only man in Israel with this understanding. And you start teaching it. You know what people do? They smell it, they taste it, right? This is something new, and then they go with it. It says, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you. The some that trouble you is these men, right, of high stature, right, of the circumcision. It says, and would pervert the gospel of Yahawashi. Now you have to understand the gospel of Yahawashi and the gospel of Paul, right? A gospel, again, is a teaching, right? Let me get this real fast. Right, let's get this. This is the mighty book, right, of Galatians, right? Chapter 1, and let me get the word gospel. Good tidings, right? Glad tidings, right? Meaning a message, a teaching, right? An understanding, right? So you have many understandings under the same head, which is Yahawashi. You have the circumcision, you have the uncircumcision, right? Which was given to Peter and then was given to Paul. And then you have Yahawashi, you understand? Isaiah chapter 61. So understanding, he's saying, which is not of another, but there be some that trouble you and will pervert the gospel of Yahawashi. The gospel of Yahawashi is what? It's to set you free, man. It's not to put you in bondage. It's not to manipulate you and overthrow you, cast you down, have you to be lost and confused. Right? That's not what Yahawashi came to do. Yahawashi came to set men free, physically, mentally, right? Even financially in this world, man, from taxes and problems. Right? Let's get the book of Isaiah chapter 61. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 61, right? And verse number 1. It says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord have anointed me to preach good tidings, meaning the gospel, unto the meek. He have sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives. Man, that's spiritual. And that's twofold. Because the captives on one fold are us in chains, mentally and spiritually, through the hand of the spiritual demon Satan, right? And Esau and the other nations. But we're captives by the law, man. We can never truly keep the law because we're always subject to fall. And the Lord set us free to open the prisons to them that are bound. And in the spirit, that's our bodies, because we're always subject to sin. This is a prison that we're in, man. You're looking at me, but I mean, this isn't my body and my skin. And you're hearing my spirit through the inspiration of Yahawashi. So these prisons that we're in, where we feel pain and tribulation and thoughts and demons, right? Yahawashi, our King, came to set us free from. But do we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you, right? then that we have heard, so like we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. So Paul is saying anybody that comes, this is not just talking about during this time. Anybody that comes against the truth of Yahawashi Yahawashi, via the hand of what Paul spoke by the inspiration of Yahawashi, the Lord said, let that man be accursed, man. Let him be a curse. Amania, right? Let me get that real fast. That's not even quoted, man. Let's go to the mighty book of Corinthians, 1 Corinthians. Maranatha, right? This is the mighty book, right, of 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 22. If any man love not the Lord Yahawashi, and you come up against Yahawashi when you come up against Paul, when you come up against anything the Lord had divvied out, you come against Peter, you coming against Yahawashi. You come against James, John, Bartholomew, Thomas. You come against these men, you come against Yahawashi. Let him be Anthenema Maranatha, man, which is what? A vessel fitted for destruction when you go into the etymology. So Paul's reiterating what he already said to the church of Corinth. If anybody teaches any other doctrine, let him be accursed. As we said before, so I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. I mean, if anybody's coming up saying, you know what, you do have to be circumcised, and they pin you against the wall, right, and they quote 1,000 precepts, right, or they try to lock you up in bondage by the law, right, and by all of the things pertaining unto the law, then you by chance will have to be under the law of condemnation, meaning death. You will have no way of freedom, right, to not be put to death. Verse 10, for do I now persuade men or God? So Paul is asking the question, man, do I give a damn about your synagogues? Do I care about the high noble men of Israel? Do I care about notoriety and fame? Or do I care about the truth, man? The truth must prevail. It doesn't matter if it's 3 people speaking the truth, man, but 47 views. The Most High has honor upon that man. Then all of renownedness of Israel and everybody watching, right, and right, all of these Pharisees and God knows what in these synagogues, opening up ancient books, going into history and timelines and all type of things pertaining to the law, knowing it all off the top of their head. That's not impressive to the Most High, man. We're not persuading men about this. Well, let me get a quick precept. Because in the ancient world, it was a very, 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 very important thing to be in the end, man. Right, in them synagogues. That's where Paul went up under Gamaliel, man, to get taught. Right, Yahawashi was in the synagogues, man, every Sabbath day. Right, didn't it say in Acts chapter 18, right, and their manner was that they go into the synagogues, right, and teach every Sabbath day, persuading both Jews and Greeks. So the synagogues was very prevalent, man. And even the Jews said, how would this man learn having never been in school, never been in letters, man? Paraphrasing greatly. In the book of John, the 7th chapter. Right, let me get the mighty book, right, of John, chapter 12. It's the book of John, chapter 12, and verse number 42. Nevertheless, among the chief rulers also, many believed on him. So you had chief rulers that believed on Yahawashi, man. But because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. And who cares if you get put out of the synagogue? Who cares if men look down on you? We're not persuading men. Verse 11. But I certify you, brethren, that the gospel, right, which is preached of me is not after man. He's telling you over and over and over that this is not after man. He's a part of that man when he says after man. Right? This is not of his own will and his own understanding. And the Most High would not be with a man that's speaking for him with the gospel to do the feats and prophesy and do the works that Paul did, man. Really think about every man in Israel that I know of, man, and who I don't know of, who labored like Paul. Let me get this quick precept. You think the Most High is going to be with a man that's running around blaspheming his name, saying he's saying things and speaking things that the Most High never said, and the Most High will push this man with such a fire and zeal, and understanding to labor more than the 12 apostles? Let me get this quick precept. Right, this is the mighty book, right, of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 9. It says, for I am of the least of the apostles. Meaning what? He came last, right, as one born out of time. He didn't come up with Peter, James. He was going off. He was a Pharisee persecuting the church. So he's the least, meaning the smallest of authority, and or coming after these men that am not meet to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace, which was bestowed upon me, was not in vain. But I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of God, which was with me. So something was with Paul to do these works, to speak, to teach, to be long-winded in the synagogues to the point where men are falling asleep, man. He was on fire. It says, therefore, whether it be, so like it, whether it were or they, so we preach, and so ye believe. Right? So, I mean, Paul was on fire in this thing. He labored more abundantly than they all. It says, for I neither received it of man, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Yahawashi. So the revelation of Yahawashi are what? Are secrets, are mysteries, are things that need to be revealed. That's the mysteries of Yahawashi that Paul is speaking about, that no man knew about, that were hidden in the prophets of grace and freedom, which should be revealed in the latter times. Right? This is the mighty book, right, of Ephesians chapter 3:3. How that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery. You think everybody can understand a mystery, man? That's why a lot of people couldn't get down with Paul in the ancient world, man. Why? Because the things that he was speaking were mysteries. They never heard them before. It seems strange to their ears to hear the things that Paul spoke. As I wrote afore in few words, whereby when ye read, ye may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Yahawashi. Did the Pharisees have the mystery of Yahawashi? Did the chief rulers have the mysteries of Yahawashi, man? Certain prophets didn't even have the mysteries of Yahawashi. Right? It's written in Matthew, the 13th chapter, blessed are your eyes for they see. Meaning certain things didn't come to pass during the time of Ezekiel, Isaiah, and Jeremiah that were revealed in due time. Right? Let's go back to it. It says, for ye have heard of my conversation in time past in the Jews' religion, how that beyond measure I persecuted the church of God and wasted it. Meaning what? He went off. He was killing people, man. Let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 26 and verse 10. Paul was a murderer. Right? It says, which thing I also did in Jerusalem, and many of the saints that I shut up in prison, man. He was locking people up, having received authority from the chief priests. So these men were wicked. And when they were put to death, I gave my voice against them, meaning he okayed it. He gave them their condemnation, right, their sentence, and he gave the okay. Right, this is the book of Galatians, chapter 1 and verse 14. And profited in the Jews' religion. Now, a religion means a teaching, a belief, right? Above many my equals in my own nation, being more zealous, exceedingly zealous of the traditions of my fathers. So when it says exceedingly more zealous than the traditions of his fathers, it's really just going into the law, right? But you had traditions also. Now, traditions got a lot of men jammed up. No, you had something called a Sabbath day's journey, where you can't walk but so many steps, or they'll damn lash you, man. They'll get on you. But that was a tradition. Washing your hands, that was a tradition. Certain things were traditions that became laws and burdensome to Israel, to the point where it started to overthrow men. Right? And the Pharisees were drunk off of power. That's the traditions that it's talking about. Let me get a quick precept in the classic, the book of Isaiah, right? Chapter 29 and 13, and it reads, wherefore the Lord said, for as much as this people draw near with me with their mouth and with their lips do honor me, right? Meaning what? They were praying, making broad their phylacteries, right? They making long their prayer. They were honoring the Lord, right? Saying we would do the law, this we would do, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear towards me is taught by the precept of men. Meaning what, man? Men were adding and too zealous for the law to the point where Yahawashi had to set these men free. But when it pleased God, I'm going to read that again. But when it pleased God, I'm going to read it again. But when it pleased Yahweh, who have separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, to reveal his son in me. So if any man get drawn, it's through Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. You can't come into the Most High unless Yahushua draw you. And you can't come to Yahushua unless you in the Father's hand. So the Most High revealed Yahushua, which he doesn't do to everybody, man. Everybody can't get the understanding of this truth. It's too glorious, magnificent. Even David says, such knowledge is too wonderful for me, I cannot obtain unto it. I mean, there's certain things that David couldn't even grasp because it was too marvelous, man. Let me get that real fast. I know I'm pulling way too many precepts. I gotta just read all the way through it from trying to get through this book, but that's the spirit, right? It says, Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor my eyes lofty, neither do I exercise myself in great matters and things too high for me, right? So he said, look, it's certain stuff that's just too high for me, right? Reading on. It's Galatians chapter 1 and 17. Neither went I up to Jerusalem. Up to Jerusalem, why? Because there's where the synagogues. That's where your Sanhedrin was in Jerusalem. Your lesser and your greater Sanhedrin, right? Of about 70 elder men. To them which were apostles before me, meaning I had authority over me, but I went into Arabia and returned again into Damascus. So immediately when the Spirit hopped on Paul, he went smooth into Arabia to teach and returned into Damascus. Then after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter. Why? Because Peter's the head of the church. He has the keys of the church. So if anything's being ran in and out, it has to go through Peter, and abode with him 15 days. But other of the apostles saw I none, save James, the Lord's brother. Meaning he went to the elect of the elect, the top men, right? James, the Lord's brother. These are pillars in the church. And Peter. Why? Because the things that he taught could have been hindered by men that don't understand the truth if it wasn't granted by these elder men that were above them. Now the things which I write unto you, behold, before God, I lie not. Afterward, I came into the region of Syria, right, and Sicily, and was unknown by face unto the churches of Judea, which were in Christ. Why? Because they're like, well, who is this man teaching and doing all of this work, man? Where is he coming from? Who is this guy? But they had heard only that he which persecuted us in time past now preacheth the faith. So all of the apostles, the disciples, and all of the men were confounded that this persecutor, this perjurous person, this murderer is now turned into the truth, which were once he destroyed, and they glorified God in me. Meaning they understood that the Most High could take dust and make it gold. That the Most High could take a homeless man and make him a king. That the Most High could take a murderer and make him one of the chief prophets of the scriptures, man. Right? And let me get this account in the book of Acts to go into that. It's the mighty book of Acts, chapter 9, verse 19, and it reads, and when he had received meat, he was strengthened. Then saw certain days with the disciples which were at Damascus. And straightway he preached Yahawashi in the synagogues. Check that out. That he is the Son of God. But all that heard him were amazed and said, is not this he that destroyed them which called in the name in Jerusalem and came thither for that intent that he might bring them bound into the chief priests? But Saul increased the more in strength. I'm going to read that again. How do you increase the more in strength? The Lord said, he that have clean hands shall wax stronger and stronger, in the book of Job, right? The 17th chapter. A man on his own free will, traveling around speaking his own words in the name of the Most High, could not increase. It would be impossible, contradicting, foolish, and ignorant to think that Paul did this on his own free will and his own mindset. He was a hand-chosen vessel to speak things pertaining that were mysteries of Yahawashi and increased in strength above men and in the spirit of the Most High by the mysteries and revelations that the Most High gave him through Yahawashi, and confounded the Jews which were at Damascus, just like Stephen did, in the book of Acts, the 6th chapter. Now, Stephen was confounding men. Stephen was on fire to the point where everybody was getting overthrown in the synagogues and they wanted to kill him. That's how on fire he was, proving that this was the very Christ. Right? Now we're going to the next chapter through the Spirit. It's Galatians chapter 2 and verse 1. Right? Galatians chapter 2 and verse 1. And it reads, then 14 years after, meaning after the account of the first chapter that we just read, right, I went up again to Jerusalem with Barnabas, right, and took Titus with me. So Barnabas was on fire as well, right? He was one of the disciples, right, that laid all of his portions and all of his inheritance and the things that he had at the apostles' feet. When you read Acts, right, the 4th chapter, when you dive into it, he's a very honorable man, and took Titus with me also. And I went up by revelation. What does that mean? He went up by revelation. Meaning the Lord revealed what he ought to do and moved his feet for the words of Yahawashi to be magnified to Jerusalem, checked in with the elders, right, that they may give the green light of fellowship, like the scriptures say. So the revelation is in his own revelation, and communicated unto them that gospel, because they haven't heard it. It wasn't like they had all of the understanding that Paul had, which I preached among the Gentiles, but privately to them which were of a reputation. Meaning Paul had to speak things in private lest he get overthrown, you understand, by the circumcision. Why? Because they had the preeminence and power to do so. Right? Let somebody in Israel, a high noble man, say something, man. Men are going to respect it. Men may not even question it or ask for a precept because it's coming out of his mouth. The spirit of Jerusalem and the reputation that these men had, men were coming up from all the way from Tarshish, like Paul, to come all the way to Jerusalem just to be at the feet of Gamaliel, man. That says a lot about the teaching and the understanding that these men had. So it's very intimidating. Knowledge is intimidating, man. Let Paul walk in the room, man. Right? I'm going to get my notepad out, my pen out, and I'm going to kind of be, confounded, man. And I'm going to ask 1,000 questions, as much as he'll answer. So the reputation and the power that certain men had on the left-hand side could override the understanding that Paul was given. Right? It says, lest by any means I should run or have run in vain. Meaning all of this work of coming up to Jerusalem would have been for naught. But neither Titus, who was with me, being a Greek, he wasn't a physical white man. Right? It's not saying that he's a white man. He was a Greek. Right? Why? Let's go to the book of Acts, the 6th chapter. Now, a lot of the New Testament and a lot of the Israelites, they went up into different parts of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, right? And all of these parts of Turkey, right, under the Seleucid Empire, right? All the way in the Old Testament of the days of old, right? How we got into that land. I did a breakdown on it. How did the Jews or how did Israelites get into Turkey or get into the different parts in the New Testament? If you want to go into the history, right, in the new, right, on the Cold Cuts channel. It's the book of Acts, chapter 6, and verse number 1. And in those days when the number of the disciples was multiplied, right, meaning the works and the acts, right, of the disciples and the apostles was going out, men were getting added unto the church. There arose a murmuring of the Grecians. Now the Grecians, right, are Greek-speaking Israelites, right, that were Hellenized, right? When you go into Antiochus, right, the 4th, Epiphanes, right around 164, right, BC, right, during that time of the revolt and all hell breaking loose, you had men that were Hellenized, they were beaten, they were killed, right, and they were adapting to that understanding. You had a lot of traitors, right, Malcolmus, alchemists, right, Malleus, alchemists, and a lot of men like Jason, right, that overthrew a lot of the Israelites. So you had those things going on when you go into the history against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. Why would it murmuring? What is this talking about? Right, just like you may have a so-called American. Now, Israelites may look down on Americans, man. Right, so-called Black Americans. Right, they got their what they call it, St. Patrick's Day hat on, and St. Patrick's Day mug, and they're in a bar, they dancing with Esau. They'll make America great, right? And they dancing along with the beats. They're all at the Olympic shows, right? That's not pleasing to see, right? In the same spirit of these men and these women, they couldn't really speak, right? In the Hebrew, a lot of them were just Greek and Hellenized to the point where they were neglected, right, in the daily ministration as those things was going out. So that Greek, right, it was Titus. When you're going into it, that's what that's talking about. It says, but neither Titus, who was with me, being a Greek, was compelled to be circumcised. And that because of false brethren unaware brought in. Meaning you couldn't tell who these men were because they were spies. They were brought in to hear and listen, to hear Paul's gospel, who came in privately to spy out our liberty. The spying out our liberty is to secretly hear the things that Yahawashi gave Paul, which we have in Yahawashi, that they may bring us into bondage. That's evil. So they're just listening to bring up accounts. To whom we gave place by subjection, no, not for an hour. Meaning we're not going to be under your authority, right, and under your damn rulership, right? When Yahawashi told me something, huh? If the Lord told you something and your mother or your father or your husband said something else, who are you going to listen to? Are you going to listen to the chief priest? Hey, Paul even told you in the first chapter, though me or an angel teach any other gospel, an angel could come down, man. It don't matter what that angel say, man. It don't matter if that angel, you whip out an old ancient book and all of the dust. And the dust was like a rainbow of particles. It was orange, green, purple, like teal, right, and all type of tangerine. All of these different type of spectacle colors. And he opened up an old ancient book and it says something that goes against the words of the Most High. You can't listen to that angel. It says, but of these who seem to be somewhat, whosoever they were, it maketh no matter to me. Meaning it don't matter who you are, how men deem you. God accepteth no man's persons. So Paul was in the spirit not only to bear the words of the Lord and the gospel of the Lord, but to have all of Jerusalem hate him if it came down to it. And whoever didn't bear witness. For they to whom seemed to be somewhat in conference added nothing to me, meaning I'm not fearful. But contrariwise, when they saw the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, meaning his ministry of uncircumcision to the Gentiles, as the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter, right, meaning the circumcision, right, the Sanhedrin, it says, for he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision, meaning the power Yahawashi gave to Peter, the same mightily in me towards the Gentiles. Why? Because he magnifies his office, right? It says, and when James and Cephas and John, right, who seemed to be pillars, right, Cephas is Peter, perceived the grace that was given to me, meaning when I understood it and laid it up, they gave to me and Barnabas the right hand of fellowship, meaning they granted that teaching, right, to be in Jerusalem. And no man can stay Peter's hand because he's over the church. That we should go unto the heathen and they unto the circumcision, right? So when it says unto the heathen, a heathen is just a word that's classified for Israel. Now under the New Testament, right, when you're going into it, let me get this quick precept, right? Israelites were called heathens, right? The Lord called you a lot of things, man. The Lord called you a serpent, a viper in the book of Deuteronomy 32. The Lord called you an ass, right, in Isaiah, the first chapter. The Lord called you a heathen in second Esdras, the second chapter, right? The Lord calls you haters of God, right, in the book of Psalms, chapter 81. It's a lot of titles that you don't want to be called. The Lord calls you a Gentile, 1 Corinthians, 12th chapter. The Lord will call you many things, right? This is the book of second Esdras, chapter 2, and verse 33. I, Esdras, received a charge of the Lord upon Mount Horeb, that I should go unto Israel. But when I came unto them, They set me at naught and despise the commandment of the Lord. And therefore I say unto you, who is the you? Israel. O ye heathen. Why heathen? Because heathens are rebellious. They're evil. They're ignorant. They don't adhere nor fear the words of the Most High. That hear and understand, look for your shepherd. He shall give you everlasting rest, for he is nigh at hand. That shall come to the ends of the world. Right? Salakia, to the ends of the world. And they into the circumcision. Only that we should remember the poor, the same which I also was forward to do. Right? Like the same thing Paul did in the book of Romans, the 16th chapter, right? Verse 22 all the way down. But when Peter was coming to Antioch, Antioch is Turkey. So Peter also traveled. Peter wasn't just in Jerusalem all day, man, looking down at everybody. Right? You do this and you do that. No, Peter got busy, man. Peter was on the move. Right? Peter was a true apostle, man. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 1. He actually spoke about the men that were in Galatia, man. Right? This is the book of 1 Peter. Right? Because he went to Antioch. Again, Antioch is in Turkey. Peter, an apostle of Yahawashi, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, that's Turkey, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia. All these are provinces of Turkey, elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father throughout sanctification, of the Spirit unto obedience, and the sprinkling of the blood of Yahawashi, grace unto you, and peace be multiplied. So Peter, he traveled. He says, I withstood him to the face because he was to be blamed. So Paul withstood Peter, meaning he got in his, you know what, man. He confronted him. It says, for before that came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles. So, you got Peter, the head of the church, and it'll look some type of way if the synagogues and all of these men have this spirit. He's over top of these men, and it looks like he's transgressing and going against, right, their laws, their decrees, their understanding, and the spirit they're in. So Peter didn't want to, I guess, be in between two. So he was eating with the Gentiles because he understood the truth. But when they would come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. So that circumcision had to be, just think about how Israel is now, man. Israel is evil, man. You talk about one another constantly. It's always a cat beef. It's always division. There's no love. Your fringe is too long. Somebody make a video about you, man. Your fringe is too short. Put a magnifying glasses. Maybe he's not in the truth. Your border of blue not blue enough. I got to rebuke him. That same zeal on the left-hand side is what these men were moving in, huh? Right? Where's the liberty? Where's the mercy? Where's the grace? Where's the true teachings of Yahawashi and the understanding of the truth, man? So these men were fearing so much that they say, you know what? Yeah, I got to withdraw myself. Let me get another quick precept on the fear of the circumcision that was going on in the ancient world, man. Right? You can't fear man. Right? This is the mighty book of John, chapter 9. Right? In verse number, I'm going to start at 20. Right? I'm going to start at 19. And they asked him, saying, is this your son? Right? The one that was blind. The Pharisees pulling up on people. Who ye say was born blind? How then doeth he now see? So you can't read this like a sleep, like you got sleep paralysis, man. You woke up in the middle of the night, you kind of read a couple chapters, you went back to sleep. Or like you drunk. What does it say? It says, and they. How many is they, man? Could that be 20? Could that be 30? Could that be 7? Those 7 people roll up on you, man, and start asking you questions. That's intimidating. It could have been 30, man. Nobody knows. Verse 20. His parents answered them and said, we know that this is our son and that he was born blind. So they're not even trying to answer the question because they don't want to get in the mix. They're acting scared. Verse 21. But by what means he now seeth, we know not. You don't think their son told them? What do you mean we know not? because they don't want to be responsible of speaking in the name of Yahawashi, because they would have got kicked out of the synagogues. They would have got shamed on. They would have got looked down at. They would have got their finger pointed in their face, and they knew that. Or who have opened his eyes, we know not. He is of age, ask him. What do you mean he's of age? Ask him. It says he shall speak for himself. Why didn't they want to speak for him? Because they knew what would come with speaking in the name of Yahawashi. Verse 22. These words spake his parents because they feared the Jews. So, I mean, all throughout the New Testament, you read about the fear of the circumcision. So it's not a wild pitch or guess that Peter withdrew himself, right? Not that it was okay or it was valid, but the spirit that was going on at that time was so serious with the Jews that God knows what would have happened. It says because they feared the Jews, right? For the Jews had agreed already that if any man did confess that he was Yahawashi, he should get put out of the synagogue, man. Check that out, man. What do you mean you're going to get put out of the synagogue? You know how Israel is, man. Israel is extra. Israel will grab you up like this, and then they'll do the Jeffrey, man. They'll throw you out, or there's a calm down, Salaks, Shammai, 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 Shammai. Then everybody listen up, everybody looking, right? 300 people in there, right? Make an example out you. You know how Jake is when they puffed up with power, man. Right? They'll grab you up. This man has denied our fathers. Right? There's no telling what type of evil spirit these men were in as they kicked people out. I'm led to believe they didn't do it quietly. Right? This is the book of Galatians, chapter 2 and verse 13. It says, and the other Jews dissembled likewise with them, insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation, man. Dissimulation. So Barnabas even got carried away with their mischief. So spirits hop on anybody, man. Spirits hopped on Barnabas to get confused, right? To get carried away also with foolishness. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly, according to the truth of the gospel. What's the truth of the gospel? Paul's gospel. The understanding that Yahawashi gave him, that they bear witness to, that they went off on, right? It says, I said unto Peter, before them all, if thou being a Jew livest after the manner of Gentiles, and not as doeth the Jews, why compellest the Gentiles to live as do the Jews? So he posed a confounding question, man. That's like telling somebody, man, why you telling me to wear fringes and you not wearing fringes, man? Or why tellest me to keep the Sabbath day and thou enjoyest thy life with vanity, right? And it's kind of like you dropping the mic. It says, we who are Jews by nature and not sinners of the Gentiles, right? Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by faith in Yahawashi. Now, you don't take this precept and run away with it, right? You run down the street, make a left, you make another left, you make another left, you make another left, you just keep going left, right? It says, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law. The works of the law is not going to justify men. A lot of people seem, when they read this, to skip over the word justify. You're not justified in the eyes of God, man. Even the Lord charges the angels with folly. The Lord said, blessed is that man, right, whom iniquity is not imputed. Paraphrasing greatly in the book of Psalms, chapter 32, verse 1 all the way down. Meaning I could commit a sin and the Lord kill me. But you could commit a sin and the Lord doesn't impute that wickedness unto you because you're the elect. David should have been put to death for committing adultery, but he didn't. Other men went the hell off and they're in the ground. So it's to justify. Who can justify you? Not man, the Most High, right? Through the faith of Yahawashi. Faith is another word for liberty, right? Which is another word for grace, which is another word for mercy. These are all coincided in the New Testament to coincide in the same spirit. Even we have believed in Yahawashi that we might be justified by the faith of Yahawashi. What are they being justified by the faith of Yahawashi in? What is this talking about? Right, we're going to keep reading. And not by the works of the law, for by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. Reading the first, second, third, all the way to the sixth, all of it saying the same thing. One might be in a parable. One might be confusion with the old English, right? One may be plain upon tables, but it's all saying the same spirit. You cannot be justified by the law. Right now, within Galatians, you have the law of circumcision. You have the law of condemnation unto death. So you have to rightly divide with understanding and discernment which law that is actually going into. Right? Verse number 17. Right? And it reads, it says, but if while we seek to be justified by Yahawashi, right, which is off, we ourselves also are found sinners. Why am I going to justify myself before Yahawashi? That means I'm coming before the Lord and I'm saying, look, I'm justified in me keeping the law. How many faults? And the Lord said in the book of Job, the 15th chapter, we drink iniquity like water, man. You know how thirsty you are on a summer day. You know how much your body craves, understand that water, that H2O, how much you need that to survive. It says we ourselves also are found sinners, and therefore Christ is the minister of sin, meaning no, he's not coming to teach you, right, that you're justified by the law. He's not the minister, meaning the teacher, which is over that understanding that those men were teaching. God forbid, meaning no. For if I build again the things which are destroyed. What do you mean if he builds again the things that are destroyed? That's Hebrews, the 6th chapter. You cannot build, meaning repair, what Yahawashi broke down. Right, let's go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 6 and verse 1. Right, this is Hebrews chapter 6 and verse number 1. Therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Yahawashi, let us go unto perfection. Now, how do you go into perfection? Is it by the law? Is it by the works of the law you go into perfection? No. Not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works and of faith toward Yahweh. So don't lay again the same foundation that was destroyed. The Lord destroyed certain things that he may build it up a better way, that he may show you a better way. The law is not done away with. The law is not something that's in the Old Testament, never to be talked about. And if you mention the law again, you'll be put out. No, man. Right? The law is prevalent. We keeping it to this very day. We're going to forever keep the law. Forever and ever by Shema Mashiach Yahawashi. But what the Lord broke down, right, you can't build again by your own preeminence and justification. It says, I make myself a transgressor, right? Meaning you found the liar. For though, right, law, I am dead. So like for through the law, I am dead to the law. What does it mean you're dead to the law? Meaning you'll never be able to live. Because every law is going to witness against you, even if you kept all of them, save one. That I might live unto God, meaning that you may be able to live, meaning not be put to death unto Yahawashi by his freedom. I am crucified with Yahawashi. That doesn't mean that Paul got up on the cross. Crucified, meaning he nailed every ordinance, like you read about in Colossians, to the cross, that he may set you free, man. This is the book of Colossians, right? Chapter 1, right? This whole thing is fire, right? And I'm going to try not to, read too much, but, I'm going to read 20. And having made peace through the blood of the cross, by him reconciled all things unto himself, I say, whether they be things in earth or things in heaven. Check that out. And you that were sometimes alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, it's like you yet now have reconciled, man. So we were enemies, and the Lord nailed all of our sins to the cross. This is the book of Colossians, chapter 2 and 13, right? It says, and you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh have he quickened, meaning made alive, right, together with him, having, right, forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances. It's not saying you're not keeping the law anymore. He blotted out things that were against you. What was against you? Idolatry, right? Passing your children on the Molech and worshiping Michael Jordan, worshiping Nicki Minaj, worshiping these deities. You're supposed to die. You're a witch. You're a warlock. Right? Suffer not a witch to live. What does a witch do? Sorcery. Right? You're supposed to be dead. How many people have been in tarot cards, are into crystals, palm readings, right? Constellations, right? I'm a Tarshish. I'm a Leo. I'm a Virgo. You're supposed to be dead. You're a witch, man. Right? What else? Idolatry, like adultery. How many people have went the hell off in the world? Certain things you're not even supposed to be alive for, man. So he blotted out those handwritings, meaning of the law that was against you, that you may live in him. That was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. Not talking about all laws. Those were the things against us. How was the Sabbath day against us? How was the Feast of Dedications against us? How are certain laws that are good for us to keep that we must forever and ever be against us? It's not. So when it says, I am crucified with Yahawashi, nevertheless I live. Because his old man was dead, now he's raising up a new creature. He was once a Pharisee and an evil murderer. Now he's a prophet and an apostle of Yahawashi. Yet not I, but Yahawashi liveth in me. Meaning he's that burning fire. That's how he's able to do what he does. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith of the Son of God. Because you can't please the Lord in the flesh, only in the spirit. Who loved me and gave himself for me, I do not frustrate the grace of God. Meaning I'm not going to continue to take the grace of the Lord for granted. For if righteousness comes by the law, right, Deuteronomy 6:25, then Yahawashi is dead in vain. Meaning your righteousness is not coming by the law. Nobody can say, well, I am righteous because I kept the law, man. Right? It says, then Yahawashi is dead in vain. Right? Let's go to the mighty book of Galatians, chapter 3 and verse number 1. And it reads, O foolish Galatians. Right? Meaning why? Why are they foolish? Because they're easily being manipulated. Huh? You're supposed to be stronger in Yahawashi than you are. And that goes for a lot of us, man. Right? There's been times where we've been tossed to and fro. Right? You came into understanding of this and this means that. Then you watch the video and you start thinking about it differently, start breaking it down different. You already been rooted in that understanding, yet you unrooted yourself and planted yourself all over again. What precept is that? The Lord said through the hand of the men of God, Yahawashi, he plants you. He's the seed. You're planted and you're watered, right? And you grow, right? The book of Mark, the 4th chapter. Some into stony ground, right? Some 60, right? Some 100, some 20, right? Depends, but nevertheless, you're supposed to stay rooted and grow. There's no unrooting yourself and being planted again, right? This is the book of Galatians, Salakia, Ephesians chapter 4 and 14. That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro. Meaning the child is tossed to and fro. Wake up, go to school, okay, be a teacher, go to the office, then you go into the office, go back to your teacher's room, go back to the teacher's room, and go catch your bus, you're late, now you on the bus. Now the bus driver tell you, get off, now you get off, now your mother tell you to go to the room. You're just getting tossed around, man. A child can't do what they want to do and carried about with every wind of doctrine. But it's like it by the slightest of men and cutting craftiness, whereby they lay in wait to deceive. Certain people are trying to deceive you as we speak with videos and breakdowns. So the Lord is saying through the hand of the Apostle Paul, O foolish Galatians, who have bewitched you, which is an old word for trick, that ye should not obey the truth. Before whose eyes Yahawashi have been everly set forth, crucified among you. And you've heard and witnessed the things of Yahawashi of freedom and liberty and grace, right, by his ministry. How are you now uprooted from that into another understanding? This only what I learn of you, meaning this is what I want to know. Receive ye the Spirit by the works of the law or by the hearing of faith? And that's a question to everybody, man. How did you receive the Spirit? Was it by the works of the law or was it by the hearing of the faith? Because the last time I checked, me believing that I could teach in the name of Yahawashi and not be confounded is what not made me to be confounded on the highways and byways. Me believing in my heart that I could cast down these demons. Me believing in the Spirit, right, that I could pull these precepts I may forgot. Me believing that Yahawashi could work through me and that I could do all things through him, through the Spirit. is what justifies me, not the works of the law, the long hours of studying, the pressing out of my clothes, the sewing of seamstress, and all of the garments. These things aren't going to justify you, nor receive the Spirit by carnally eating lamb and carnally doing ordinances. That's not going to have a spiritual outcome. Are ye so foolish, having begun in the Spirit? Are ye now made perfect by the flesh? By the flesh is talking about the circumcision. You can't be made perfect by the flesh. On one fold is the circumcision. On another fold, it's your works in your body, right? It says, have ye suffered so many things in vain? And have you went through all that you've been through just for it all to go for naught, if it be yet in vain? Hear therefore that minister to you the Spirit, and work miracles among you. Doeth he by the works of the law, or by the hearing of faith? I mean, how are these men going to be able to show you the Spirit and miracles of the Spirit? Is it by the law or is it by faith? Let's find out. Let's see a miracle that Paul did, and let's figure out if it was by the law or was by faith. Right? This is the mighty book of Acts chapter 14 and verse number 8. And there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being crippled from his mother's womb, who never had walked. This man never walked. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him and perceiving that he had faith to be healed. Man. That's plain. This is what he thought in his mind. His mind wasn't Deuteronomy the 19th. Deuteronomy 19. Don't tell me. That wasn't his mind process. That through Deuteronomy the 19th chapter, and by reading it, right, and him doing that law, that he'll be justified with no faith and no extra help through the Lord and mercy. So he perceived through the Spirit that he could be healed. Said with a loud voice, stand upright upon thy feet. And he leaped and walked. How did that happen? Through faith. So he's showing the church that you can't be able to do spiritual things by carnal things. Right? Verse 8, it's like in verse 6. Even as Abraham believed, right? Abraham was justified by what? By his belief. And it was counted unto him for righteousness. Why is Abraham called the father of righteousness? The father of belief, right? The father of the circumcision. How is he the father of the circumcision and he wasn't even circumcised? And he had when he was called, right? And then over time he was. Why was he justified in his uncircumcision, right? Before he was even circumcised. The Lord said, walk before me and be thou perfect in the book of Genesis, the 17th chapter, man. And what did Abraham do? He walked before the Lord. And Abraham kept the commandments, right? Genesis 26 and 5. It says, now ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham. Now this confounds, trips up a lot of people, and these a lot of Christians, they kind of hold this in the chamber. And what does this mean? Let's read verse 6 again. Even as Abraham believed. What did he believe? That even though he doesn't understand something, he believes in Yahawashi. And the Lord told him to get rid and kill and slay his only begotten son, man, Isaac. How many people would have did that? There's no account of Abraham going off, right, at saying anything otherwise or bucking up against the Most High. Know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham. That's not saying that you come from the loins of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob if you have faith. That's not what that's saying. You're not a spiritual Israelite. Meaning to be a child of Abraham is to move in the spirit of Abraham. That's what it's talking about, right? It's not saying that just because you know Abraham or you have faith that you're somehow justified and you're a spiritual Israelite. Let's find out what the works of Abraham are to be accounted as his seed even means. Let's go to John chapter 8 and verse number 37. It says, I know that ye are Abraham's seed. Meaning I know who you are, man. But ye seek to kill me because my word have no place in you. Meaning a lot of people, they don't do the works of Abraham. Therefore, they're not Abraham's seed. Even though they physically come out of the loins of Abraham. You're not Abraham's seed. You're not the Most High's children smoking weed, man. Think the Most High is claiming you? I thought he said if you're not chastised, you're bastard and not sons. Right in the book of Hebrews, the 12th chapter. How are you a bastard? A bastard means you don't have a father. He's not around. So even the Most High is calling you not his son, even though you are his son. It says, I speak that which I have seen with my father, and ye that do which ye have seen with your father. Because their father is the devil. What does a father do? He carries the seed. Now, the Most High didn't physically begot and have man. Neither did Satan physically begot and have man. It's all spiritual. It's all a similitude. A father does what? He carries a seed and he issued out children. Therefore, you have righteousness, you have wickedness. You have the fleshly loins of Abraham of wickedness. You have the fleshly loins of Abraham of righteousness. So it's saying you are of your father because you seek the things that your father seeks. You're not after the will of my father. So that seed of faith is a different spirit and just being a seed. It says they answered and said unto him, Abraham is our father. Yahawashi said unto them, if ye were Abraham's children, and he just said that they were Abraham's seed. That's how you know it's talking spiritual when it's going into who these men are. Ye would do the works of Abraham. This is not the works of Abraham, huh? This church wasn't doing the works of Abraham. And so Paul had to come, admonish these men, correct these men, push these men, exhortate these men to be able to be the children of Abraham, to be able to be the seed of faith. So they were already the seed. You just have to tap into your inheritance. You're already a king. You're just an heir awaiting the throne. Right? It says this. And the scripture foreseeing that God would justify the heathen. Right? Through faith. Now, a lot of people say, well, see, it say it right there in the book of Galatians. Right? That the Lord would justify the heathen. Right? It's not talking about the so-called white man and the Chinese man. Right? And all of these strange creatures, man. It says, preach before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, in thee shall all nations be blessed. What is Abraham, Salakia, what is Paul quoting? Paul often quotes the Torah, man. And you have to dive into the Torah, the Tanakh, right, in the scriptures to understand what he's talking about. Right? Let's go to the mighty book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32. Right? Salakia, bear with me. 32, and let's start at, I'm gonna start at this whole thing is fire. Right? I'm gonna start at 20. It says, and he said, I will hide my face from them. Right? Talking about the Jews. And I will see what their end shall be. But they are a very forward, meaning evil generation. Children in whom is no faith, man. That's why the Lord had to provoke us with a nation that is not a nation, right? Meaning the northern kingdom, a foolish nation, a silly dove, man. So we're a forward generation, children in whom is no faith. That's why all throughout 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, verse 22 all the way down, the book of Matthew, chapter 16 and verse 1, right? Even Deuteronomy, right, the 32nd chapter, all the way to Galatians, right? It's hard for men to have faith. That's why the Lord said, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on earth. That's why I said in the scripture foreseeing that God would justify the heathen. He would justify, right, the outcasts, because they are to have more faith than his own people being the Jews. Through faith, preach before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, there shall all nations be blessed. Now, with people with that understanding, it's not saying all nations as far as everybody on the earth, man. Right? I want to get this precept. Right? It may take a minute for me to actually pull it because I got to look for it. Right? Salakia. Bear with me. Okay, come. Right? Verse number 19. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 48, 19. I'm going to start at 17. What's the context? Right? Joseph, Ephraim, Manasseh getting a blessing. Right? Jacob. Right? When you read this chapter. It says, and Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, and it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand and removed it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my lord, but this is the firstborn, put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he shall be great, and truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. Does that mean the so-called white man comes out of Ephraim? The Chinese man comes out of Ephraim? Or does that mean the Japhites come out of Ephraim? No. Multitude of nations isn't always how people look at nations. Nations isn't always everybody on earth, right? The Lord called a multitude of nations coming from Manasseh and coming from Ephraim. So nations isn't always how people like to grasp it and understand it as all people of the earth. It's not talking about everybody on the planet. That's not what this is talking about. Because every nation don't even come out of Abraham in the first place. That would contradict the table of nations and anybody's understanding that all nations could even come out of Abraham. So even with that butchered, wicked understanding, everybody's still not accepted. Verse 9. So then they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham, right? It says, for as many as are the works of the law are under the curse. Meaning if you're under the works, meaning you're doing the law, you're under the curse. The curse is not just saying Deuteronomy 28, because you're going to be cursed regardless, because as a nation, we're collectively under the curses together, right? Now, a curse is being what? Put to death, right? A curse is being alienated from the Lord. These are curses. For it is written, curse is every one that continue not in all things which are written in the book of the law and do them. But that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God. It is evident, for the just shall live by faith. Meaning the just is going to live right by the justification of the Spirit of the Lord, not by the workings of the flesh. Right, that's what it's talking about. Right, reading on. It says, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God. It is evident that the just shall live by faith, and that the law is not of faith. But the law that doeth them, so like the man that doeth them shall live in them. When you're going to live in the truth, if you're of the truth. If you're not going to live of the truth. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law. The curse of the law is death, being made a curse for us, meaning he became a curse. Not that he took on Deuteronomy 28, he buried it all up, right? And he carried all of Deuteronomy 28, and you're no longer under the curses. Because our people are still getting shot down in the streets, killed, right? Our religions and all type of things that are overthrowing them. It says, as it is written, curse is every one that hangeth on a tree, right? Let's get that in the law. So the Lord said, curse is every man that hangeth on a tree. What is hanging on a tree? What is that talking about? It's talking about death, man. Right? That's what it's going into. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 21. And when you go into this chapter, a lot of it's talking about death, man. Right? If somebody be slain in the land, the first verse, that's death. If you have a wicked child that's going to hell off, right? They have to be killed. Right? A stubborn and rebellious son. That's death. Right? This chapter is really heavily going into death and the condemnation of those laws and those curses upon you, man. Right? People are still getting shot down in the streets. Right? This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 21 and 23. His body shall not remain all night. I'm going to start at 22. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, right? Meaning nobody is going to be put to death by the blood and mercy of Yahawashi. But if they trample underfoot, right, and deny the grace of the Lord, they will have to live with that judgment. And he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, right, which Yahawashi took on. He took on that for you. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is a curse of God, that thy land be not defiled. Right? Because a dead body can make a whole tent or people around it unclean. Meaning if that dead body was laid upon all night would defile the whole land. Right, by Numbers the 19th chapter. Which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. Meaning an inheritance in goodly land can't be defiled. Right, that's why you have to take down that body. It says, being a curse for us, for it is written, curses everyone that hangeth on a tree. That the blessing of Abraham, what's the blessing of Abraham? All of the promises given to him might come into the Gentiles, meaning what? The Israelite foreigners, the strangers, and men that were once lost, that were Jews, right, connected back to the nationality. Through Yahawashi, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. So receive the promise of the Spirit, right? Because the Spirit is not given to everybody. Everybody don't have the Spirit. They may have the law. The law's carnal. You may have that as an inheritance, but the Spirit isn't given to all men. Right? Let me get a quick precept. You can't even speak the name in Yahawashi if the Spirit not working with you. Right? That's 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Let me get that real fast. It's the book of 1 Corinthians 12 and 2. Right? I'm going to start at 3. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speak by the Spirit of God called Yahawashi accursed. Meaning nobody in the Spirit can say any foul thing about Yahawashi. And that no man can say that Yahawashi is Lord, but by the Holy Ghost, man. Can't nobody say Yahawashi is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and he is the Lord, man, unless the Holy Spirit working with him. Why? Because you'll deny it. You'll be blind. The Spirit is not in you. That promise isn't for you. Right? The Lord blinded a lot of people. Right? Let me get a quick precept, man. Let's go to the book of John, first chapter. This is John chapter 1 and verse 10. He was in the world, meaning Yahawashi, and the world was made by him. And he created the angels, the elements, right, and everything. And the world knew him not, meaning they didn't perceive the light that came into the world. He came into his own, meaning the Jews, and his own received him not. Right? They looked down at him. Right? They didn't believe he was the king. But as many as received him, meaning that small remnant that followed him, that multitude, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. How do you become the son of God? It's not a spiritual Israelite, because he was only around the Israelites, even to them that believed on his name, which were born not of blood. It don't matter if you're born of blood. That's not impressive, man. Earl's born of blood down the street, man, shooting dice. Reggie is born of blood, man. It says, nor of the will of the flesh. Why? Because flesh is always mentioned in Galatians. Right? The flesh lusts against the spirit against the flesh. Don't justify the flesh. It's not about the flesh. That's why a lot of people butcher Galatians so bad, because they don't understand what it's talking about, man. Nor of the will of man, but of Yahweh. Right? This is Galatians chapter 3 and verse 15. Brethren, I speak after the manner of men. Right? I'm speaking, right, the truth. And I'm speaking after the manner of a man, through though it be a man's covenant. Yet if it be confirmed, no man dismantleth, nor addeth thereunto. Right? And this is going into, right, when you read the book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 40. Right? That 430 years when you actually going into it. Right? No man can add or dismantle anything that the law has promised or the covenant of the Most High. Now, to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. So nobody could say anything other than what is written. He saith not to see and to seeds as of many. Meaning there are not many seeds the promises were given to, but as of one, and to that seed which is Christ. And that's spiritual because Isaac was Yahawashi. So that one seed that did not go to Ishmael, that went to Isaac, is spiritual and twofold. You have ears to hear. Right, by the only begotten son from the ancient world before, and that first lamb, right? And that seed as in one, and to right now what Paul is making a similitude, but as unto one. Meaning you have to come from the seed of Yahawashi. That doesn't mean Yahawashi had physical children. Meaning what he had, you have to be born again. That's of your father. You have to be born again. right? That's why the book of John, chapter 3 and verse 3, and him talking to Nicodemus, right, was so serious during that time, huh? Because it was such flesh in the ancient world, and preeminence and justification of Jews, and I'm this and I'm that, more than a spirit going around. Right? This is the book of John chapter 3 and verse 3. Yahawashi answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again. Who are you born again from? Yahawashi. He cannot see the kingdom of God. So that's that flesh and that seed, the born again of the understanding and the faith. That's what it's going into. It's not saying if you believe in Jesus Christ, all shall be one. Verse 17, and this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before God in Christ, the law which was 430 years, by Exodus chapter 12 and 40, after cannot disannul, meaning stop, that it should make the promise of none effect. Meaning, the law is not going to contradict the promises that are for to come, which were already promised to Abraham. It's not going to contradict one another, no one hinder the other from coming to pass. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of promise. So if the inheritance of all the things that the Most High promised man was of the law, meaning of to keep it, there's no more promise for it to come to pass. But God gave it to Abraham by promise. Therefore, then serveth the law? No, we're not serving the law, man. We serve Yahawashi. The law is our schoolmaster to bring us into Yahawashi, right? It says it was added because of transgressions, meaning the laws were added, right, because of transgressions, right? You have animal sacrifice. That was added because of why? Transgressions. That's the law, right, of animal skin and coats given to Adam, right, in the book of Genesis, right, chapter 3 and verse number 23. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of animal skin, right? That's the issuing in of animal sacrifice. The coats of skin is what? It's animals, bullocks, sheeps, goats, and he clothed them, right? Because why? They were naked. And then he clothed them for a way to atone for sins, because why? They were blameless. They were innocent. They were free. So when you go into it, it was entered in, right? Because of what? Transgressions, meaning sins. Till the seed should come, to whom the promise was made, and it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. Ordained by angels, right? The mediator is Yahawashi. Ordained by angels. The angels is upon Mount Sinai, man. Right? That fiery mountain. And they issued in the law via the hand of Moses. Now, a mediator is not a mediator of one. Meaning each mediator, it takes more than one person for somebody to mediate a situation. But God is one. Meaning the Most High doesn't have to fit your criteria of understanding what a mediator is. Is the law then against the promises of God? I mean, is there a conflict? God forbid. For if there had been a law given, that which have given life, meaning what law could have given life, man? Because every law I know brothers broke. I don't know one brother on his life could say, you know what, I've kept all the laws perfect and blameless, man. I am the Lord, man. This is God forbid. For if there had been a law given, which could have given life, verily righteousness should have been by the law. Meaning if it were possible to keep it to perfection, then righteousness would have been by the law and not of faith. But the scriptures have concluded all are under sin, right? Romans 3 and 10. That the promise by faith of Yahawashi might be given to them that believe. The them that believe is a small remnant. You're them that believe because you're on his life. You're not justified by the law. Now, a misconception a lot of people have about the Israelites or the black Hebrew Israelites or the extremists or whatever you want to call the brothers that are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they don't understand what we believe, man. All they see is somebody getting chopped down on the highways and byways. All they see is brothers may be in all black, brothers may be passionate, zealous. They don't understand the truth, man. They don't know what brothers are truly about or what brothers actually believe, man. Let me read this again. but the scripture had concluded all are under sin. Right? They think that the Christians think that the so-called Israelites, the black Hebrew Israelites, all we do is just believe in the law, and that's the end all be all. Right? As somebody in my family asked me, "Do you believe in Jesus Christ anymore, man?" Right? Because I was keeping the law. Right? And their misconception is that if you keep the law, then faith is no more. And they're breaking the scriptures down wrong. They don't know the context, the audience, the spirit, nor the understanding given, nor the discernment that link these things up to know the history. It says, but faith, but before faith came, meaning before Yahawashi came, we were kept under the law. Right? Meaning what? We were all under the law of animal sacrifices and a law punishable by death. It's not saying the law as in all laws. When you read the Bible, you have to have discernment in what law means. Every law is not the same law. It says shut up into the faith, meaning we're shut down into the revealing, which should afterward be revealed. The revealing is Yahawashi's light to set us free. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster. What is a schoolmaster? A teacher. What did the Lord do when I came into this truth? It taught me. I grew over time into the mysteries of Yahawashi. I don't know any brother that just started off in the spirit, man. His first day in the truth, right? He confounding all of the Christians. He going into the in-depth secrets. He diving in Revelation. He's just saying all spiritual things. No, we all start off carnal, man. We got to keep the Sabbath day. And for real, we got to grow out our beard. We got to keep the Day of Atonement, man. Wasn't that 1446 BC? 1406 BC? What are you talking about here? Right? And you start carnally changing up your diet, carnally changing your clothes, wearing fringes. And then the spirit start working with you, man. Because the schoolmaster is it's a teacher. It taught you how to do this. It taught you how to do that. It taught you how to do that. And we've all been taught by our parents till we're grown to the point where we understood why our mother beat us, why we understood why our father chastised us. And now we laugh at it, man. We in the spirit now. Right? My father used to whoop my you-know-what, man. The older I get, I look at my son, right? If we still here, right, I'm going to chastise him, man. He not getting away. Right? And God forbid he's here for me to wax old. He'll understand it. The schoolmaster is to lead us into perfection, into Yahawashi, into a perfect and better way. It teaches us, it molds us, and it guides us into the true light. To bring us into Yahawashi, that we might be justified by faith. Right? So we did all of this work of the law, just to get right before the finish line, look up to Yahawashi to pull us over by believing he can. But after that faith has come, we are no longer under the schoolmaster. And a lot of people may say, well, you know what? We're not under the laws anymore, man. Well, that's not true. But after that faith has come in Yahawashi, we are no longer under the schoolmaster. What does it mean we're no longer under the schoolmaster? We're no longer under the laws that were written against us. We're no longer under the condemnation of death, man. Let me get that in the book of Romans. That schoolmaster in that way, right, that we could not pass the finish line, we're no longer held by those things that withheld us from being able to cross the finish line. Let's go to Romans chapter 8, verse 1. Right? It's the mighty book of Romans, chapter 8 and verse 1. There is now, therefore, now no condemnation. Right? Meaning nobody could condemn anybody that came to the Lord anymore. Meaning nobody could stick their finger down your throat and say you have to answer for your sins. To them which are in Yahawashi, who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit. That's twofold. The flesh is drugs, cigarettes, and fornication, but it's also the flesh in your old understanding of what we're going into, the flesh being, that those Pharisees walked in and those men of non understanding. But they're walking in the spirit now, being of the seed and the understanding born again of Yahawashi, now accepted as the children of Abraham. For the law of the spirit of life in Yahawashi had made me free from the law of sin and death. What's the law that we're going into? The law of sin and death. There are many laws. So you have to know the context of which laws that it's talking about. Being no longer under the law of sin and death through the mercy of Yahawashi's blood. That's what it's talking about. Verse 26. For ye are all the children of God by faith in Yahawashi. Right? It says, for as many of you has been baptized into Yahawashi have put on Yahawashi. Baptized meaning killed the old man, raised up a new creature. You have put on Yahawashi, meaning the new likeness of his image. Therefore, there is neither Jew nor Greek, meaning there's nobody that's Hellenized or far off, alienated, and can't come into this truth, right? Look down at the daily ministration, right? And or a Gentile, right? Right, like I said, these Greeks that were Hellenized Greeks, right, during the time of the Greek Empire, right, chiefly when, Alexander the Great reigned, but, Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth, right, all the way in 164 BC during that time to all the way that you get to Galatians, right, in the New Testament and other books around 49 AD, 48 AD. So from the time jumping in the different empires, like I said, how we fled into Turkey under the Seleucid Empire, there's neither Jew nor Greek. There's no separation of Israel anymore with the classifications, like it used to be in the ancient world with the house of David, right? And then you have the northern kingdom. There is neither bond nor free, because men were bond and some were free during the Roman Empire, right? Some were born Roman citizens, some were born out the Roman province. It says there is neither male nor female, right? That's plain. For ye are all one in Yahawashi. All one in Yahawashi. What does that mean? Have we forgot to read verse 16 again? Because that's exactly what it's saying. It's explaining it. What do we all one in Yahawashi mean? Now to Abraham and to a seed where the promise is made. He saith not to seeds as of many, but as of one, and that seed which is Christ. So if you come of, born again, of the loins of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, through the understanding of being born again of Yahawashi, then this applies to you, for you are all one in Yahawashi, because that's that one seed. That's why you have to read the whole chapter. You have to link up the whole chapter. You have to dive into the whole chapter. You can't just read Galatians 3 and 28 and think that it's talking about all men. All men don't fall under Greeks. You know how many nations they are? It says, for if ye be Yahawashi's, then ye are Abraham's seed and heirs to according to the promise, right? Let's go to the mighty book of Galatians, chapter 4 and verse number 1, right? Galatians chapter 4 and verse 1. Now I say that the heir, right, and the heir is somebody awaiting the throne. As long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. Right, so you can have a man that's an heir, right? And he's awaiting his throne. But guess what? He's still a prince, man. He can't make shots yet. You think anybody respected Simba from the Lion King, man? Nobody respected Simba. Right? Zazu always played with him, man. I think the little girl name was Nala. I think she didn't respect him. She was pinning him down. Zazu was telling him where to go, man. Right? He had to ask permission from his mother to go places. And where you going? Oh, we're going to the water hole. Nobody respected the heir, right? But nevertheless, he's awaiting the throne. Nobody respects really a child. He differeth nothing from a child. Nobody's taking orders or really holding a child in high regard. It says, now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. And we're servants. Right, we're servants under Yahawashi until we could be joint heirs and rulers with Yahawashi. That's the same as us being an heir awaiting the throne. Every brother on this live is awaiting the throne, man. You have a throne for you, man. An all gold throne, a royal throne. It could be an all white throne. I'm already in the same chapter. That's the spirit. Romans chapter 8, and I'm going to start at 17. And if children, and we're the children of God, then heirs, Meaning if you're children, you're an heir. Heirs of God and joint heirs with Yahawashi. So we're joint heirs with Yahawashi, but why? We have to wait until we come into that. You don't just rule with Yahawashi right now as being children under sin and bondage. If so, be that we have suffered with him, that we may be also glorified together. So we have to suffer, right? Verse 2. But it's under tutors and governors. What is this child under? What is this servant under? What is this heir under? Tutors and governors. What is a tutor, man? A tutor shows you and teaches you how to do work, right? Shows you how to complete a task, understand books and parables, whatever the case may be, and your learnings, right? Your geometry, right? Your reading, whatever the case may be. The Lord said, but it's under tutors and governors. Who's the tutors and governors? The law. And to the time appointed of the Father. The time appointed is when he sent his son on earth. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage unto the elements of the world. Now that's twofold. Now in context, the elements of the world is going into the law, right? So Paul, from the first chapter to the second chapter to the third chapter to the fourth chapter, is saying the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over, man. He's saying it in different ways, eloquent ways, right? Confounding ways and similitudes, parables, hidden things, plain things. But he's saying the same thing over and over and over. It says, even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. Right? The elements of the world. Let me get a quick precept. Let's go to Colossians. Chapter 2 and verse number 20. It says, wherefore, if ye be dead with Yahawashi through the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, ye are subject to ordinances? That's a fire question, man. If you be dead with Yahawashi and dead in Yahawashi, meaning you have died, that old man has been resurrected a new creature, why liveth after the things that were subject unto death and bondage? Why are you living in that? And that's already dead and gone. How can you live in something that's passed away? So Paul's ministering the same question in a different way, right? As he's doing the same thing in the book of Galatians, the 4th chapter, in the 3rd verse. But when the fullness of the time was come, meaning the complete time, God sent forth his son made of a woman, right? Mary, under the law. So Yahawashi was made under the law that he may keep the law perfectly, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Who's the adoption for, man? Who's the adoption for? Is it for this man right here? What does he need to be adopted for? This big-eared chink, man. This gook. What does he need to be adopted for, man? I thought children that want a father cry for a father. I thought children that don't have a father yearn to be adopted, yearn to be picked up, yearn to be helped, yearn to be guided. And they'll cry themselves to sleep in an orphan home, man. They'll pray that they may have a household of their own. You think he's praying for that? Or is he watching the Squid Games, man? Right? He's not crying. That's why the Lord said he sent forth the Spirit crying, Abba, Father, man. Because each and every one of us, and maybe not all of us, but some of us, for the majority of us, we wanted truth. We seek truth in the inward parts. That's what the scriptures say. Thou desirest truth in the inward parts. In the hidden parts, thou will has me to understand knowledge. Let's get that in the book of Psalms 51. So in the hidden part of your soul, you yearn to know the Lord, man. You want to, right? But let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 51 and verse 6. Behold, thou desirest truth in the inward parts. So within you desires the understanding of the Lord and the mysteries. And the hidden part, thou shalt make me to know wisdom. What is the hidden part, man? The spirit. It's not talking about your organ. It's not talking about your heart or your kidney or whatever that little tendon is up under your ribs, man. That's not just talking about. Right? Meaning only the Lord can see the spirit and what's within man. That's the hidden part. Right? So the adoption of sons, it says this, verse 6. And because ye are sons, God sent forth the spirit of his son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father, man. And brothers yearn for Yahawashi to pick them up, to guide them. Didn't Peter yearn for Yahawashi to pick him up when he started to fall? It says, wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. Right? We used to be a servant. Right? Now, that doesn't mean that we're not servants at all to the Lord. Right? But under the same metaphor, what Paul is going into, that's why he's saying this. And if son, then an heir of God through Yahawashi. Howbeit, then when ye knew not God, ye did service unto them which by nature are no gods. Right? Because all the Israelites are gods. But he's saying there are no gods, meaning, like the Lord said in the law, thou shalt not revile the gods. And then these men aren't gods that you're doing service unto. You're acting as if you're keeping the laws and reverencing these men and all of these commandments that they're throwing upon you, serving these men and traditions and customs, neglecting the truth, which is evidently prevented. So like it revealed right before your eyes, man. But now after that ye have known God, meaning your eyes are open now, to rather are known of God, meaning the Most High acknowledges you. How turn ye again to the weak and barley elements until ye desire again to be in bondage? Right? Because man is so carnal that it's what you do that makes man at all, man. Right? The wind blowing and you take a picture, that makes somebody want to double like it. Right? Or the carnal things of what you can see makes men in awe. Men seeing you keep the commandments is more glorious in your eyes of the recognition of man than the hidden things that are in the secret, like giving alms, like praying in your closet, like truly reading on your own time. These are certain things that are of the hidden man that the Most High sees. Who cares who sees you dancing like David, man? Or shaking a tambourine like Miriam, right? It's not going to get you the kingdom. Ye observe days, months, times, and years. Right? So these men were in bondage, right? And being under bondage, say ye observe days, months, times, and years. Right? Now, this is going into the laws, but guess what? I may come into the truth, and I don't really know how to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, man, but I try. I put my tent up. I do this. I do the best of my ability. I'm 3 days off, right? I sneezed. I knocked it down. Then I pent it back up. Right, and somebody kind of come out of nowhere. You're working on the Shabbat, like the first day and the 8th day. You know what the law say, right? So what is this? Right, the law said thou must be outside, right? And what are you going to Wegmans for? What are you going to Walmart for? What are you going to Dick's Sporting Goods for? And didn't our fathers get the trees themselves and all that thing and wrap it by hand? Right, you put people under bondage, right, and to the point where it's choking the church. When now they're trying to observe days, months, times, and years, right, to the point where Yahawashi's mercy is not going to cover them when they fall, man. You can't have the type of choke and yield to be as this church was. And Paul is telling this church, look, man, the Lord is going to set you free. Stop being choked with these men that are over top of you, right? It says, I am afraid of you. Right, and that's like a hip talk, like somebody that's crazy don't know what they might do, man. Somebody too zealous or somebody too scared or frightful, they might cut themselves. They might jump off a cliff. It is no telling what they would do, what they wouldn't do to get somebody's approval. It says, lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain, meaning I have taught you, traveled here, done all of this, and God forbid that it's in vain. right? You don't want to be like this church and get overthrown like that, right? It says, and let me get one quick precept, right? On observing, right? The days and the months. Let's go to Colossians chapter 2, right? In verse number 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat. Meaning no man is going to be able to judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of a new moon or of the Sabbath days. If you're a day off from your calendar, you don't want to mark that man and now he's fitted for destruction. You go on a rant, right? You put on your story, death to this man, right? You don't shake his hand, you don't salute him. But in his heart of hearts, he really feels like he's keeping it the right way. In his heart, it's sincere. In his heart, he may see it a little bit different, but he's keeping the same ordinances that you're keeping, right? To the understanding that the Lord gave him, right? Which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Yahawashi. So these things are shadows to things to be revealed, right? Meaning the truth to come out by the Lord, man. Let no man beguile you of your reward, right? Meaning the kingdom, right? In a voluntary humility of worshiping of angels, intruding in those things which have not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind. Meaning don't be overthrown by voluntary, like don't be overthrown by the worshiping of angels, like the heavenly things that are puffed up, intruding on those things that men haven't seen. Because men don't make a doctrine about an angel or Lord showed me this in his vision, and you should do this, and the Most High told me by the ancient prophet that da 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 da, like the man in 1 Kings the 13th chapter. Right? The Lord told him one thing, but he saw a man of God, which came to him in a vision, which told him to come in and eat. When the Most High told him not to come in and eat. So don't be overthrown by vainly puffed up manly mind imaginations, right? To the point where you start to get overthrown. That's why it says, look, it's like, let me read that again. It says, I am afraid of you, lest I have bestowed upon you to labor in vain. Brethren, I beseech you, because like ye be as I am, for I am as ye are, and ye have not injured me at all. Ye know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached the gospel unto you at the first. Meaning Paul, he was catching hell through his infirmities. Now his infirmities aren't classified in depthly in the scriptures, but we do know that Paul had a physical infirmity. This isn't talking about Satan damn whispered in Paul's ear every ninth hour, right? It says in the book of Galatians, the 6th chapter, but let me get this quick precept, that his infirmity, right? It says this, verse 17, from thenceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahawashi. I mean, so Paul could have been bruised, right? He could have been having a mean scar on his face, on his arm. He could have, there's no telling. It could have been marks all on him and could have had a hole somewhere. Somebody seen Paul and they said, look, hey, this man caught some hell for the Lord, man. So his infirmity in the flesh and preaching the gospel, he got stoned. It's a lot that Paul had dealt with that men saw. Verse 14. And my temptation, which was in my flesh, ye despise not, nor reject it. So he had a temptation in his flesh, right? And he had an infirmity of the flesh. Like in 2 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, when he besought the Lord, right, through grace and mercy to remove that, he said, look, my grace is sufficient unto thee, man. Right? It says, but receive me as an angel of God, even as Yahawashi. Meaning the way you treated me in my lower state was even as an angel. And an angel isn't going to have no blemishes, man. An angel isn't, going to have half a beard and the other half skin, or the angel is going to have an all black garment on with all type of things falling out his pockets, man, that are off according to the law. Right? They're going to have glorious apparel. Yahawashi is perfect. So the way they received Paul, even at his lower state, was in very high regard. Therefore is then the blessedness of you speak of. For I bear you record that if ye had been possible, you would have plucked out your own eyes and have given them to me. Right? Meaning you would have did anything for me. Am I therefore your enemy because I tell you the truth? Meaning how you going to treat me such in high regard like Yahawashi, how you going to treat me like an angel? How you going to receive the things that I say? But when I start getting on you, I could become your enemy by you not understanding and taking heed, right, to the reproof being brought out. They zealously affect you, but not well. Meaning somebody can zealously tell you what to do, but it's not for your well-being, huh? Like the Lord said, the merciful man doeth good to his own soul. You don't want to wake up at 11:30 at night all the time because your alarm is blinking saying read 7 more chapters, you slothful demon. Right? And it's just blinking. Read 7 more chapters, you slothful demon. And you wake up in the middle of the night, right? Your phone's going off and you contemplating, your heart beating. Is the Lord going to kill me in my sleep? Is an angel standing over top of me? Right? Now you're too zealous, right? You get overthrown. Right? All hell start breaking loose, man. Right? It says, but not well. Yea, they would exclude you that ye might affect them. But it is good to be zealous, affectionate, always in a good thing. You don't want to be zealous in the wrong things. And not only when I am present with you. You don't want to just be on fire when I'm over top of you. My little children, of whom I travail and birth again, right? Because Paul was like a father in the church. Like Paul said, though thou have many instructors, have thou not many fathers? Or many fathers, not many instructors. So I can paraphrase and greatly. Let's get, believe that's 1 Corinthians, bear with me, 15. It says, for though ye have 10,000 instructors in Yahawashi, ye have not, it's like ye not many fathers, right? Because while he was like a father of the church, he begot them. For in Yahawashi I have begotten you through the gospel, right? That's why he calling them his little children, in whom I travail and birth again, because you already told them the truth. Now they're getting bewitched. Now he has to travail all over again in birth of their understanding until Yahawashi be formed in you, right? I desire to be present with you now and to change my voice, for I stand in doubt of you, right? Meaning you, it's on the ropes what this thing is going to be. Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear the law? Meaning, do you not perceive the things that are written against you? For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons. Now, from 22 to the end of the chapter is going into a parable. It says, for it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, right? Isaac, right? And Ishmael, right? The one by a bondmaid, right? The other a free woman, right? So you had Hagar and you had Sarah. It says, but he whom was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. Meaning, why? She wasn't after the promise. She wasn't after immortality. And why is he bringing up this parable? Because it's saying the same thing from the 1st chapter all the way to the 4th chapter. It's saying the same thing. You're not born after the flesh anymore. You're born after the spirit. Stop being trapped in the flesh because you're just like a heathen. It says, but he of the free woman was by the promise. The promise is the same promises by Abraham. It's the same parallel he's using over and over and over in many different ways. It says, which things are an allegory, right? Meaning like a similitude and hidden, right? For these are the 2 covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, right? Which is of Hagar, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. For Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, right? And she has no promises. And answereth to Jerusalem. Why does she answer to Jerusalem? Because just like in the days before, right, in the book of Genesis, chapter 16 and verse 6, right, Sarah was on her, man, right? She was on that, you know what, man. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 16 and 6. But Abraham said unto Sarah, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. Meaning whatever Sarah wanted to do, she could do, man. Hey, get up and cook. Hey, do this. Go here. Say this. Do that. Wash this. Dry that. It says, and when Sarah dealt hardly with her, she fled from his face, from her face. I mean, she ran away, man. So when it says that answer to Jerusalem is talking about to Sarah, which now is and is in bondage with her children. So you don't want to be in bondage the same way the law will be bondage to you in the flesh, the same way a heathen will be in bondage. You understand? That's the same parallel Paul is making. You might as well just be a Moabite. It says, but Jerusalem, which is above, is free, right? Sarah, right? The children of the promise, and talking about you, them that are born of Yahawashi, which is the mother of us all, right? It says, for it is written, rejoice thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry thou that travailest not, for thou desolate have many more children than she which have an husband. But let's go to the mighty book of Isaiah chapter 54. So Paul is quoting Isaiah. He's quoting Deuteronomy, right? He's quoting all of the law, right? And the Tanakh and the Torah. Right? This is the book of Isaiah chapter 54, right? And verse number 1. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break forth into singing, and cry aloud that thou didst not travail with trial. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord. Right? So, I mean, that's spiritual, because what happened to Sarah, man? What was going on with Sarah? Let's get Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 11 to find out. Through faith, Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed. If she's the child in a similitude and a parallel likening to freedom, what does Sarah herself have to have? She had to have faith. And all that come after her had faith. All that come after Abraham had faith. These precepts are linking up through the spirit of Yahawashi. It's not just carnally. She couldn't, have a seed, and all of this was kind of written and happening for our learning today through the spirit, the way the Most High has things happen. It says, through faith, also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, meaning it should have been impossible, because she judged him faithful, whom had promised, right? So that's the same spirit of being free under that free woman, right? Things may be impossible. Things may be out of the question. We're not the children of the flesh. We're not children of questioning. We're not children of, by my strength and my power, I have lifted this. We're a children of faith. How do we win wars? How do we understand the scriptures? It damn showing by our reading and our understanding. Or certain people got an 11th grade reading level, man, a 8th grade reading level. A lot of people dropped out of school, but yet the spirit is so easily burning with them that people that go to school and scholars and theologians and men that stay up for decades and decades and decades to understand the mysteries of the Lord and Revelation and Daniel and Ezekiel, they still are confounded. It says, but as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so is it now. Right? That's manyfold, man. Right? It's Jacob and Esau. Right? It's Cain and Abel. Right? I mean, that's manyfold. When we get persecuted, right? Even so is it now with the same spirit. So you don't want to be in the flesh. Nevertheless, that is what scripture, Slakia, what saith the scripture, cast out the bondwoman, right? And that's in the book of Genesis chapter 21 and verse 10 all the way down. And her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. Meaning you can't have the law and faith and they are equally in balance. One has to be casted away, not the whole entire law, but one has to have preeminence, right? One has to have leadership and prevail, right? That's 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, right? It says, so then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, right? Meaning all of the things that were bondage unto death, animal sacrifice, and ordinances handwritten against us, but of the free, right? Meaning of Yahawashi's mercy. Right? Let's go to the mighty book of Galatians, the 5th chapter. For everybody that's been on fire, right, from the beginning of this live to now, all praise to the Most High. Right? It's the book of Galatians, chapter 5, and verse number 1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Yahawashi made us free. Why? Because the same way they understood it, and are getting bewitched, the same way when he leaves, after telling them again, they could be overthrown again. You don't want to be that brother. He just keep getting swayed every 5 seconds. He's always in a windstorm, man. He's always in a blizzard. He's always in a tornado, right? He's always in hurricane, God knows what. And be not entangled, right, again with the yoke of bondage. Behold, I, Paul, saying to you that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing. That's not saying that every brother on the live and all brothers watching this, if you're circumcised, the Most High is not dealing with you through Yahawashi. Meaning, if you put your faith in the circumcision, right, over Yahawashi's mercy, right, then he shall profit you nothing. Meaning you have already chosen your master and your way of justification. Right, verse number 3. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law. Right now, you're responsible of keeping every single law, right? If that's the spirit you're moving in. Let's get the book of James, chapter 2 and verse 10. Right, and it reads, for whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Meaning you're going to be guilty of breaking all of the laws, right? If you break one. Let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse number 18. Right, and it reads, is any man called circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Meaning don't read this and do some strange thing to yourself, man. It says, if any man being called meaning what? Into the understanding of Yahawashi. Right? Being circumcised, let him not become uncircumcised. Is any called uncircumcised? Meaning if the Lord called you in that estate physically, let him not be circumcised. Why? Because the true circumcision is of the heart. Everything that is fleshly is a spiritual way. Right? It's not just a carnal lamb. Right? This lamb breath stink. Right? This lamb, he's maimed. This lamb is asleep. You got to wake it up. Right? This lamb is going to be eaten. Right? This can't be the way. A physical lamb. Can't be a physical way of physical snippings of a circumcision. We can't be that carnal, man. We're not carnal people, man. We're spiritual people. But everything the Lord uses, like the Lord had Isaiah walk around naked. That wasn't just to have Isaiah just breezing in the wind, man. Ezekiel wasn't just laying on his side for no reason. Right? Jeremiah didn't hide the garment for no reason. These things that were carnal didn't happen just for no reason. So you can't put your trust in the carnal. That's what the Lord is saying. It says circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is nothing but the keeping of the commandments of God. Right? That's the same thing foretold of old. Right? This is the book of Galatians chapter 5 and verse 4. Yahawashi has become of none effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace. Saying the same thing has been saying all whole book. For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. What does that mean? Right, let's go to the book of Romans, right, chapter 8. Right? And 20. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who have subject the same in hope. So we hope in Yahawashi. That's where our righteousness lieth, in the hope of being justified in that day, man. We hope. And the more you hope, the more you look up, the more you yearn, the more you believe, that's where your hope lies, man. That's where your salvation lies. The Lord said, look up, for thy salvation draweth nigh. In the book of Luke, chapter 21. Right? I believe verse 32 all the way down, man. Right? Let me get that real fast. What are you looking up for? Because you hoping that you get beamed up and saved. It's the book of Luke, chapter 21. Verse, let me see. Bear with me. I'm going to start at 28. That's what I want. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads. That's having hope, going like this. When you see the sky crack and all hell breaking loose, and you looking up to the heavens, for your redemption draweth nigh. That's hope, right? It says, verse number 6, for in Yahawashi neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love. Did ye run well? Who did hinder you? Meaning you did run well. You did understand this. You really bear witness to what I'm saying. You in this thing, you running well, but who's hindering you? Who's slowing you up? Who's having you think undermined? Who's overthrowing your thoughts? That ye should not obey the truth. Right? This persuasion cometh not of him that calleth you. Hold on now. What does this mean? This persuasion cometh not of him that calleth you. So Paul speaking for the Most High through Yahawashi, right? And the Lord said in the book of Job, chapter 13 and 7, who shall speak wickedly for me? Meaning nobody can speak for the Lord. I've never known a man that spoke for the Lord and waxed strong and stronger if it wasn't the words of the Most High. Sound counsel by the inspiration of the Most High. Visions and prophecy by the Most High. It's the book of Job, chapter 13 and 7. Will ye speak wickedly for me? So if you're saying things in the name of the Lord and saying what you ought to do as laws and making these things concrete in the church, if they don't obey them, that I can overthrow their whole faith and they can't get saved, that's weightier matter, man. Who are you to say that? And talk deceitfully for him? Meaning if you're really not speaking for the Most High, the Lord could kill you, man. The Lord will destroy you. That's why the same judgment of the false prophet is the same judgment of him that adhereth to the false prophet. Meaning the whole churches of Galatia, the whole churches of Corinth, Thessalonica, Paul would have been responsible for the death of millions of Israelites. Right? This is the book. Right? And I'm going to get this real fast. Verse 9, Ezekiel 14 and 9. And if the prophet be deceived, meaning he's speaking his own thing, he's doing his own thing, he going off. When he speaketh the thing, spoken the thing, I, the Lord, have deceived that prophet, and I will stretch out my hand upon him, and I will destroy him from the midst of my people Israel. And they shall bear the punishment of their iniquity. The punishment of the prophet shall be even as the punishment of him that seeketh unto him. So if you seek to listen to things that are false, like those men entrapping the church into bondage, those men would have been responsible for the death of that whole church if Paul didn't step in. The same way with that just violence, if Paul was speaking his own things and not the words of the Most High to justify these men, if he wasn't hand selected and chosen to teach mysteries that only he knew to be his a voice for, right, then all hell could have broke loose, man. While we appreciate all of the counsel and the prophets that the Most High gave, it says a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump, meaning a little bit of hypocrisy, right, and foolishness and swaying could leaven up the whole lump. Meaning what? If my understanding is a little off, guess what? In 10 miles, I'm going to be in a ditch. If I'm going left just a little bit, 3 centimeters, what's going to happen in 100,000 miles, man? I said, I have confidence in you through the Lord that ye will be none otherwise minded. Meaning I have faith in you. But he that troubleth you shall bear his judgment, whosoever he be. Right? That's offending the little ones. That's the judgment that a damn millstone may be wrapped around his neck. And I, brethren, if I yet preach circumcision, why yet do I suffer persecution? Meaning, why are people against me? And it's so hard for me to teach the truth. And I'm getting chased, stoned, and people are after my life. Why am I suffering persecution if I yet preach circumcision? So Paul's, he's posing a question. Then is the offense of the cross ceased, right? And if you're in this truth, you're going to have to die for the name of the Lord, man, if that's your lot. And you know what it come to that? Right? The death, right? They were even cut off, which troubled you, right? Those chief priests, those chief nobles, those men that were over the church. For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty, meaning freedom by Yahawashi. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but love serve one another. So don't use the liberty and the freedom for an occasion to the flesh. That's off. Right? A lot of people say, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I have grace and wisdom. The Lord said not put off from day to day. For in the day that thou thinkest not, man. And in the day you think you got mercy, that's going to be when it run out. Let me get a quick precept in the book of Sirach instead of getting Sirach 5. Right? So I can bear with me. I'm going to get the book of Sirach, chapter 35 and 20. Mercy is seasonable. So mercy isn't given all day long, handed out like candy, man, and popsicle sticks. Right? Mercy is seasonable in time of affliction, as clouds of rain in time of a drought. It may not rain for the space of 3 years and 6 months, man, like in the time of Elijah. You don't know when it's going to rain again. It's a drought. Hey, but mercy is right when you need it at that exact moment in time, man. So don't put your last dollar for an occasion of the flesh. It says, for all the laws fulfilled in one word, even this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, right? Because essentially you're loving the Most High and Yahawashi with all your heart and soul if you love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor's made in the image of Yahawashi, right? The image of Yahawashi. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed, ye be not consumed one of another. So he's making a parallel of these men that are biting and devouring you, not to move in that image and that likeness, to move in a likeness and a law and the spirit of the Lord, not the carnal commandments of man. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So yeah, we break this down to, be strong, which it is talking about twofold. Overcome demons, fight adversity, temptation, problems, bear it like a true soldier in Yahawashi. Be on fire, be zealous, be a leader, not just in word, but in deed. Show action, show strength, live, minister the things of the altar, but live up the things of the altar, man. Let me get that real fast. Sitting up there doing sacrifices all day and going the hell off. Right? This is the book of 1 Corinthians, right? Chapter 9. Right? In verse 13. Do ye not know that they which minister about holy things? What are the holy things, man? Right? The meat offering, the grain offering. These are holy things they minister around, meaning what? At the altar, the priests, and the temples. Live of the things of the temple, meaning they live after the coals. They live after the censer. They live after the sacrifice. Their mentality and their mind frame is to live in the temple. And they which wait at the altar are partakers at the altar, meaning they're waiting for the sacrifice to be complete, that they may indulge and eat of the sacrifice. Even so, have the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel, man. Meaning it should be no hypocrisy. It shouldn't be these men that are telling you one thing, but they're doing something totally different, man. It says, this I say then, walk in the spirit. In the context, the spirit is Yahawashi. The spirit is liberty. The spirit is freedom. Walk in it and understand the mercy you have. Take advantage of it, right? Not to go off and sin, but that you don't have a condemnation-like mindset that you'll never be good enough unless you will hear about what these men are telling you. And ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. What is the lust of the flesh? All evil. Everything contrary to the truth. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, meaning there's a war going on, right? Maybe a war with you right now. It's a war trying to wake up in the morning sometimes for work, man. You crawl out of bed, you kind of roll over, right? You're looking around, trying to see. You look at your clock, right? And you try to catch about 2 minutes of sleep. You look back at your clock. It's a war trying to get up and get dressed sometimes, man. It's a war to read sometimes, right? Baby crying, dog barking, earthquake. Oh, hell, it's earthquake out of nowhere, man. The lights go out, the light get turned out, and you You shake all of the wires. Right now they come back on. Right, your landlord, the rent's due. Rent. Now they banging on the door. Rent. You already paid the rent. They got you mixed up with somebody downstairs, and it's just spirits and demons. Next thing you know, all hell start breaking loose, man. You start getting a damn ache in your neck. Now you can't turn, right? Sitting up there, you look like damn Tommy or Martin wrapped in that damn cast, right? All hell start breaking loose, and you got to fight through all of that to be in the spirit. It says, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would. Meaning certain things prevent you from doing things that you need to do, right? But if you be led of the spirit, ye are not under the law. And then Paul snaps back, you understand, into context of the same thing he's been saying the whole book. If you be led of the truth in Yahawashi, you're not under the laws of condemnation. You're not under, right, the circumcision, to the point where it overrides the spirit, right? And you'll be condemned if you don't do it. Now the works of the flesh are manifest. So he's telling you there's no good thing that could come out of the flesh if by being in it, even if that's a thought process, right? Because the Lord even said not to lean on your own understanding in Proverbs 3 and 5. Which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, sedition, heresies, envyings, murderers, drunkenness, revilings, and such like, as the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So if you're moving in the flesh, it's impossible to move in the spirit, because it's as if you're moving in all of these spirits. Because why? Paul's making a parallel. If you break one commandment, you break all of them. If you're in the flesh thinking that you could be justified in it, you might as well be an adulterer, witchcraft, hatred, variance, sedition, heresies, drunkenness, fornication. You might as well take on all of the workings of the flesh. But the fruit of the spirit, meaning the things that are yielded by you being in the truth, is joy. Why is joy yielded from you being in the spirit, in the context? Because you have the joy of being free. You have the peace of mind, long suffering. You may long suffer the state you in, but guess what? There's joy in the morning, like the scriptures say. Them that reap in tears, right? The sow in tears shall reap in. Let me get it real fast. Let's not quote it. Let's go to Psalm chapter 30 and verse 5. And it reads, For his anger endureth but for a moment, but his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And nobody knows how long that night could be sometimes. Gentleness, which is what Paul said through the Spirit, is fulfilling all commandments, loving your neighbor as yourself. Goodness and faith, it's very important. Meekness, temperance, all of the spirits in which these Pharisees, chief priests, these men that are over these men, dragging them into bondage, trying to kick them out of the synagogues and create laws that are burdensome to them, don't have. Temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Yahawashis have crucified the flesh with the affections of lust. I mean, all that's nailed to the cross. Right? You're a new man. If we live in the spirit, let us also walk in the flesh. Let us not be desirous of vain glory. Who loves vain glory, man? For all brothers that have read Matthew chapter 23, who's mainly loving vain glory? The Pharisees, provoking one another, envying one another, right? Let's go to the final chapter of the mighty book of Galatians. The book of Galatians, chapter 6, in verse number 1, right? And it reads, Brother, if a man be overtaken in a fault, meaning if what? If he catches hell and that spirit and that situation gets the best of him, ye which are spiritual. Why does he keep talking about the spirit? It's all saying the same thing. Meaning you can't overtake and help a brother by keeping the damn law, man. That's not going to help that brother. You having that big beard, those long fringes, like got ashes all on your face because you keeping the Day of Atonement, and he catching hell, and you walk up to him ashy, man, with all type of dirt and ash on your face. That's not going to help him. Ye which are spiritual, meaning what? Ye that are in the Lord, that can only receive, do miracles, and have faith, and do spiritual things that can benefit you, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, right? Which is the spirit, right? The fruits of the spirit, considering thyself, lest I also be tempted. Meaning you could be overthrown and taken down by the same spirit, right? If you're not moving in it. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Yahawashi. Right? What does that mean? Bear ye one another's burdens. Let's get the book of Luke. Let's get the mighty book of Luke, chapter 23. Right? And it reads, verse 26. And as they laid, right, him away, they laid hold upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Yahawashi. Right? So the Lord, he was in pain, misery, right? All hell was breaking loose. And through all of that, you had a man that helped bear his cross, right? And you have to bear your brother's burdens, man. You have to help your brother. You never know what a brother's going through, man. Brother could be seeking suicide behind closed doors, man. Right? Brother may be dealing with all type of spirits. You never know what a sister is dealing with, man. They're not going to tell you. Why? Through pride. Let me get this quick definition.
Pride.
Right? Ego. Check that out. Right, let me get this. Let me see if I can get me a good definition of pride. Someone who is prideful is arrogant, right? Is disdainful. Prideful people don't usually have many friends since they think they're superior to everyone else, right? Like they never catch hell, right? Like they never are going through anything, right? Superiority, right? You don't want to have that type of lofty, lordy, haughty, right, type of spirit. You don't want to be prideful. You never know what somebody's going through, man. You're not, the Lord's gift to the earth, man. And without you, we wouldn't exist. Right? We all fall, man. Right? A just man falleth 7 times. So we all fall, but for that brother to call you, check up on you, pull up on you, give you precepts, or even physically touch you, man. Give you a hug, man. Sometimes a brother may physically grab you and make you go somewhere. Get out of the dark. He physically cut the lights on. He physically grab you up. And now he physically bring you into light, man. So, you need your brother to bear your burdens, your problems, man. And you fulfilling the law of Yahawashi. So, all you brother that don't want to be your brother's keepers, that hate your brother and hate your sister in your heart, you going off. And you're not fulfilling the law of Yahawashi. You're really moving in the flesh. Justified by your long dress, your hair wrapped. Well, what about your sister? What about what she dealing with? What about her pains, her situations? You was catching hell 5 months ago. That was you 7 months ago. That was you last week. It says, for if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. And we all are deceived for a moment in time. Like that new dress may have you deceived, that perfume, that fragrance, right? That haircut, that garment. You may walk with a little pep in your step, but you got to remember, we're all dust and ashes, man. We're not anything to the Most High. Right? You can't sit there and just say, well, you know what? I'm God's gift. Right? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 90. It's like 39. And I'm gonna start at 4. Lord, make me to know mine end and my measure of my days, what it is, that I may know how frail I am. Right? Meaning we really need to be taught how frail we are, man. We're just dust and ashes. We're brittle. How easily are you offended? Your mother can make you cry. Your woman can make you cry behind closed doors. Your husband can make you cry. How fast can mortal man and dust and ashes break you down? How much more the Most High? Think the Most High won't break you down, man? He broke down Nebuchadnezzar. The Lord will break down the high and lofty. And the Lord said in the book of Psalms, chapter 9, that the nations may know that they are but men, meaning they're nothing, man. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 9 and verse 19. Arise, O Yahweh, let not man prevail. Meaning what? Don't let man think that he's something. Don't let man prevail. Let not the heathen, it's like you let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Put them in fear, O Yahweh, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. Meaning they're not gods. They're not anything to be admonished and put on pedestals and glorified. Man, who are they? Your fighter jets, your missiles, and your money and your gold, your preeminence and glory, right? Your suits, your tuxedos, your garments. That means nothing to the Most High. Let these nations know that they are but men. Huh? So if you think that you're something when you're not, you deceive yourself. That's a delusion. That's a demon. And really what it's going into is not bearing your brother's burdens. A lot of people think that they're better than people, man. I used to know this brother, man, a long time ago. He didn't salute brothers like he saluted other brothers. He saluted one brother, right, with his hand up to his chest and his chin up to the third heaven, right? And he saluted brother strong, but other brothers he deemed that didn't have as much wisdom, that were growing in the spirit or low or just not up to his standards of what he thought a man should be in the truth, you know, Shalom. Right? So, I mean, men look down on men, man. Moses was the most meekest man on earth. What did Moses do when all of the princes rose up against him and he cast himself down upon the earth? He really kneeled. Like he didn't want no problems, man. Let the Most High, right, had a vengeance. Right? So we got to move in that type of spirit. Right? Even our king, the Lord, what did he do, man? He moved like a lamb appointed to the slaughter. Right? So the Lord said when the apostles were murmuring about who's the greatest in the kingdom, what did the Lord say? He that is chief among you, let him be your servant. That's the mentality we have to be in. Verse 4. But let every man prove his own work. Meaning everybody watching this, myself included, chiefly, right? Because I'm the one saying this. Let every man prove his own work. We have to prove our work, man. Don't just make it, put it together, slap it together, glue it together, slam it together, screw it together, and put it up for play, man. Put it up for show or sell it. Or just flash the light on it like it's finished. Da-da. No, we have to prove it, man. How do you prove something? By fire. Let me get the book of Psalms, chapter 12, and verse number 1. Right, it's the book of Psalms, chapter 12, right? I'm going to really start at verse 6. The words of the Lord are pure words, as silver in a furnace. So like as silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified 7 times. So this thing is tried 7 times in a furnace of fire. Purified. Meaning these words can't nobody gainsay. Can't buck up against it. We have to prove ourselves. You should be the hardest person on yourself than anybody else. Right? It says, let me read that. And then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another. So you don't want to have your joy to be in another. I mean, it was of this brother giving me the precepts, always being there for me, always pushing me while I got the kingdom. Because he's not going to be there. He's not going to always be there, man. Cursed be he that put his trust in man and make a flesh his arm. For every man shall bear his own burden. right? So you're going to have to bear the cross that the Lord gives you. You're going to have to drink of that cup. Evidently, you want your brother to bear your burden, but essentially, you're going to have to prove the things that the Most High gave you. You can't depend all on another man because every man's going to have to bear his own burden. He may have help. I may call the brother and help the brother through depression, but I can't bear that for him. He has to do that. Because at the end of the day, when I'm asleep, while I'm at the plantation, while I'm doing a video, he's still battling that. Therefore, it's still weighty and weighing on him. He has to essentially show himself a man, prove his own work, right? Understand he's nothing, and through the mercy and faith of the Lord, pull through. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teacheth in all good things, right? Communication is key. Be not deceived. What is this talking about? Meaning don't fool yourself. God is not mocked, meaning you're not going to get away. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reap. Right? Meaning what? If you sow fleshly things and carnal things of your mentality of salvation and justification, you'll reap out death and destruction. But if you sow in faith, if you sow in the understanding of the truth of what Paul is teaching you, you're going to reap that back. That's what it's saying in context. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. So what are you reaping? What is all of this hard work for, man? For to be destroyed. But he that soweth to the spirit, right, shall of the spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well doing. I mean, don't let this thing get burdensome. Oh, I just day after day, night after night, and you're just doing the same old deal. Like you just on autopilot mode, man. Right, let me get this. Need a breath of fresh air, man. Right, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 73, right, and verse number 2, right? It says, but as for me, my feet were almost gone. My foot hath well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked, man. Now that's your nations of the earth on a deep level. But I mean, just looking at it on a surface level, we envious at the foolish, man. How many brothers got that dirt bike they never had? That a brother just ride on by in, man. Right? Brother had them shoes, that apparel, or whatever the case may be, you may glorify or live a life that you once had, man, or you once wanted. A rapper, an athlete, a singer, right? You may want to play sports, whatever the case may be. You don't want to be envious and foolish at the foolish, right? Because it'll overthrow your thinking. And next thing you know, you start to get weary and well doing. Well, this isn't panning out for me, man. I don't think I really want to do this anymore. I haven't had fun in a long time. Me. And you start forgetting about the Most High. As we have, therefore, opportunity, let us do good unto all men, right? Being your brother's keeper, right? Especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Well, who is the household of faith? It's the same spirit from the first chapter to the sixth chapter. That's the household of faith. Them that are without need to be helped as well because they need to be guided as Paul is doing through the spirit. But to do harder and go harder for those that are house of faith is more expedient. Ye see how large a letter I have written unto you with my own hand. As many as desire to make a fair shoe in the flesh, right? Meaning circumcision, they can strain you to be circumcised. That's off. They can strain, grabbing you up, pressing you out, saying they'll kick you out the synagogues, making you a spectacle, you to talk amongst the town. They can strain you by under the law. We are the gods of the earth. Do you not obey the law? They'll constrain you and force you to keep things that Yahawashi set you free from. Only least, so like you only lest they should suffer persecution for the cross of Yahawashi. And they're not going to suffer persecution. We're the ones that suffer persecution for the cross. For neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law, right? Meaning they're teachers of vain things and they're teachers of babes. Like it says in the book, right, of Romans, chapter 2 and verse 20. Let me get that real fast. They're hypocrites. An instructor of the foolish, right? They're just instructors of foolish men that will believe anything they say. A teacher of babes. Meaning you can't manipulate or overthrow, right, anybody that's well seasoned in the truth. You can only manipulate the babes, the ones suckling and tickling on the milk and really don't know what's going on, which has the form of the knowledge, right? Meaning you have a little bit of understanding in what it's saying and of the truth in the law. Meaning you could be a teacher, you can guide an instructor or schoolmaster. Therefore, right? So it's like thou therefore which teacheth another, teachest thou not thyself. Right? Meaning what? It's the same spirit, right? And who is Paul getting on? He's getting on those men that condemn men that them themselves are unexcusable for the crimes that they're laying upon other men. Right? It says, for neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law, but desire to have you circumcised that they may glory in your flesh. Right? That's sodomy. That's off. That's another man wants to glory in your flesh. Right? Because it was a big deal back then. But God forbid that I should glory, saith in the cross of our Lord Yahawashi. I mean, I'm not going to glory in carnal things. The things that are carnal, I can't glory in, man. I only can glory in the cross of Yahawashi, meaning the persecutions, right? The blood, the temptations, the problems, the things that I endure, that's what I glory in, man. I glory the Lord took me out of that. That's the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 12 and verse 10. Right, let me get that real fast. That's my glory, right? Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, man. So his pleasure is his what? His glory and reproaches and necessities and persecutions and distress for Yahweh's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. That's his glory. Being weak and being made strong by the faith in Yahweh, by whom the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world. For Yahawashi Hamashiach neither circumcised, so like his circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. And as many as walk according to this rule, peace be upon them, and mercy upon the Israel of God, man. Right? So anybody that's walking in the understanding of what the church and Paul, through the spirit of Yahweh Shah, is telling these men, peace be upon you, man. You have peace or a curse in this book. Curses be upon you by teaching any other doctrine or way going against the things that Yahweh Shah told Paul, or peace being upon you, right? And mercy and prayers. From henceforth, let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahweh Shah, right? And that's a heavy statement. What have you been through, man? A lot of brothers have spiritual marks, but it's going to come a time and a day where those things are going to become physical. Brethren, the grace of our Lord Hamashiach wa Malak Yahawashi be with your spirit. Amen. Unto the Galatians, written from Rome by Shema Mashiach Yahawashi. Right? Let me get this closing precept. Right? All praises to the Heavenly Father. Right? Most High willingness was edifying. Most High willing, maybe it was even one thing you understood that you learned. All praise to the Most High. It was a refresher. All praise to the Most High. If you had perfect understanding of the book of Galatians to the Most High's ability that he gave man, all praise to the Most High. If you're learning everything from scratch, all praise to the Most High. Right? Lord willing, it was something right through the spirit, right, that you got out of this breakdown. Right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse number 2. Be watchful. Everybody on this live has to keep watch. All hell is breaking loose. Most High willing, after I get off this live, I'm checking to see what's going on in the earth, man. Right? Most High willing. And then I'm going to go over some precepts, Most High willing. Right? So being occupied isn't just on a Shabbat. Watching isn't just when you hear the sound of a wolf or a doleful creature. Right? Watching is even at night. What did Habakkuk say, man? I will stand upon my watchtower and see. Right? Let me get that real fast, man. Right? Meaning what? What's in the town? Mirth, drinking, laughter, idleness. Right? He wasn't in the town. He's all the way up upon the high tower, man. Let me get this quick precept, right? In the book of Habakkuk. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower. I will watch to see what he was saying to me and what I shall answer when I am reproved, man. So he said, look, I have to see what the Lord will show me. He's not going to show you when you want to be shown. You have to continue upon your watch. That when he reveals it in that season, time, and moment, you're ready to be, you understand, for it to be revealed unto you. Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect before Yahweh. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast, and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come in thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come unto thee. Right? So continue to keep watch. Make your body a living sacrifice. Continue to do the works of the Most High. And Most High willing, you stay on fire. With that, I'm going to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashema Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. Shalom.